This is our large electric SUV comparison episode, featuring the Kia EV9, the Volvo EX90, these two, both available also as 7-seater, then the Polestar 3, related to the Volvo EX90, the Tesla Model X, of course with the most screaming out layout with these Falcon wing doors, then the Germans with the BMW iX, among the Germans the most progressive one, then the Mercedes EQE SUV, also has a bigger brother, the EQS SUV, the Audi Q8 e-tron, recently reworked, and as a wildcard the XPeng G9, from a Chinese production. They offer a very decent price. Can they also compete with the other ones? So which one is at this moment the best large electric SUV to buy? Let's dig into the details. Let's go.
A new large electric SUV with a significantly high range. This is the Kia EV9, Kia's new flagship. It's an electric SUV, and finally we have a large EV, which is not in the super high top premium segment. Could this be at this moment the best large EV to go for? We'll find out here with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here, starting with the front. Really strong. This is the GT line, so this top sporty trim. You can see here the daytime running light in a vertical way, and we have a beautiful matte blue color. Wow, I mean, this looks amazing, doesn't it? The GT line also features more sporty features. For example, here also towards the side, we have the 21-inch wheels, and also in this, I would almost say a concept car-like design. 19-inch would be the base wheel. Then we have the contrasting wheel arch in the high gloss black, then here in the GT line. We can see this kind of strange side mirrors here. These are the optional camera mirrors, but you would also start with normal mirrors if you rather prefer that. Here at the side profile we can see a very angular line, so it goes against the modern trend of creating these aerodynamic bulb designs and so on, and I think it just looks stunning. Turning indicator check, looks pretty amazing here in the front, how it replaces the daytime running light, doesn't it? 5.01 or 197 inches is the length here, so really a full-size SUV indeed. Either rear-wheel drive with a small battery, around 8 seconds in the acceleration figure, or 9 seconds with a bigger battery. And if you go with a bigger battery, you can also go all-wheel drive. Then you have one electric motor per axle, and then you get less than 6 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. So that is significantly quick for such a large vehicle indeed. Top speed 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles an hour for the all-wheel drive version, 185 kilometers an hour or 115 miles per hour for the rear-wheel drive version. Once again, so strong, really angular, against the trend indeed. Yeah, it doesn't look EV at all, and I'm absolutely sold on the exterior. What about you? Turning indicators in the rear. That looks pretty amazing, doesn't it, here with this really single element design. Is there a frunk? Yes, there is one. It's small, but definitely leaves enough space for a cable, and you can easily open it from the inside of the vehicle. As for the battery sizes, by the way, either 76 kilowatt hours or 100 kilowatt hours, and that will probably translate into a real-world range of either 400 kilometers, 250 miles, or 500 kilometers, 300 miles. Recharging will be possible with the 800-volt architecture, bringing you 10 to 80% state of charge in about 25 minutes. And here a silver vehicle as a contrast. This is not the GT line, so a base line, but already looks quite strong. Of course, you don't have so much black contrast, but rather than a silver contrast in the lower part. Which one do you like better?
Here the base version, you can see, has different turning indicators, not the vertical one, but kind of separate one inside. But also looks cool, doesn't it?
In the side here, these are 20-inch, so basically in between. But design-wise, definitely prefer the GT line. Yeah, but you can get also more designs. This to me a little bit too closed, of course, thinking about aerodynamics and so on.
This is how it looks like when the mirrors fold in or out together with the door handles. Either here in the flush setup, aerodynamics, and then accessible.
And here with the silver car, you can see very well here in the side profile how the glass housing is really embodied by the vehicle colors, horizontal stress. And finally, a silver look for the rear. By the way, a heat pump is also featured with this vehicle. Then here, the doors. You can see here, these are flush door handles. They go in when you close the vehicle. Door closing sound really solid indeed. Then inside of the doors, rather soft touch here, nice fabric insert. This then here is a little bit softer even. This is then here the screen for the digital mirrors, but once again just an option. A lot of options here as well. Heated steering wheel, cooled seat, heated seat, and everything with real buttons, easy to control. I really like that. And this interior is also pretty futuristic indeed. Horizontal focus area with this one screen design, and the seats are particularly interesting. These are the GT line seats, so they have this dual tone scheme as well. A lot of controls. This is then the button for the relaxation function, that it goes backward actually. And the material is bio-PU, so it's all animal free, even the steering wheel. And they don't use then raw oil, but for example castor oil and corn as base, so plant-based oils and material as base to create these seats, together with a lot of recycling share and other parts. So they are really going full circle as for sustainability. That's top notch. And it's super comfortable indeed. The material quality is amazing. So also have this has perforation, seat cooling. You have very good command driving position, and you see this large hood in front of you. You really get a large SUV feeling. There is plenty of headroom left, even with 189 or 6'2". This also the small panoramic roof. Well, panoramic roof, not quite, but just a small glass roof. You can actually really open it. And why not? This shade here is just manual. And then the rear seats, they have another separate small glass roof. Interior cockpit overview in the GT line. Two 12.3-inch screens, horizontal layout, and the cool thing is the climate unit still here with a manual control. I love that, colder and also warmer, and then here the vent strength, so straightforward still. You have these hotkeys that are basically integrated here, and they give you some kind of haptic feedback. For example, then here you can access the map. The cool thing here now, upgraded with the EV9, they also have now route planning for your charging stops, so it automatically calculates the charging stops and then also preheats the battery when you have a charging station set. This is really important. Then the steering wheel here, in and out, up and down. Once again, really good volume jogs here, real buttons at the steering wheel. They found a good user interface. The shifting lever is here. You put it forward like this in drive mode, right side P and back to reverse. So this is really, you step in the vehicle and you directly know where is what. Then in the lower part you have this huge middle console. You could put up this here, then you have inductive charging pad underneath for your smartphone, and in the front you can slide this one open and everything resonates very well. This is premium quality indeed. Push these here and then you have two large cup holders that are even adaptive. And below the middle tunnel you also have more space. Digital instruments, clear to read, simple and straightforward indeed. You can adjust them a little bit actually, what you want to have in the middle. And you also get a head-up display. Quick up-close look at the infotainment. Here you have this main menu with these tiles. Car wash mode is interesting, so it sets up the vehicle that you can go into the car wash without getting wet, for example, so it automatically closes the sunroof and so on. Why not? And you can see these hotkeys are working, and the map is also, let's say, decently responsible. But of course you could always go for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but then you don't have the pre-calculation for the charging stops. Particularly interesting here, USB-C charger, the second one, and then you can switch it from only charging to charging and connect. And then also your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto is being activated, both wired though. Rear seats, actually everything that resonates with the quality. It's really nice here, sounds, and when you feel, when you touch, everything very good. Opens quite wide, so you can easily access the rear seats. This is here the single seat setup, pretty cool, like captain seats. In this case, in a 6-seater, so 2, 2, 2 with the third seating row. You can also get a through bench. Then you have 3 seats in the second seating row. Then you have a 7-seater. And for this 6-seater, you have 2 different setups. Either you get a relaxation seat, then you can not only put the back part in the rear. You can have the same function like the front seats, you know, like with the calf rest, and it goes a little bit like that for like this sleeping position. Or like this, you have the swivel seat. First of all, you can go front and rear normally on this, you know, on this slider. But then the swivel seat has this separate lever here, and then you can, now it gets really funny. You can either do it like this. I mean, that could be like a lookout position, for example, or maybe like a picnic position, like when like all the crumbles are falling to the ground and not inside the vehicle. You know what I mean, kids. You know, don't crumble in daddy's or mother's car, right? And then we can also go around. And now it gets really interesting. Yeah, I know you're having a great laugh now. This must look amazing. So, and then I can go all the way around, yeah, like this. And then I can go back. Can I go back? Yeah, when you know, when the front seat is a little bit more to the front, that would be better. So you can turn it like really like 180 around, and you can have like a family chat or something. But you can see here the space is limited, so I need to be, you know, going more back to this on the slider here. But then the front seat can't be at Thomas' position. Look at that! Even seat heating and seat cooling is available for the second row. That's amazing. They really thought about the rear passengers. You have cup holders, USB-C chargers in the seats, and then you can pull out this one here, and it serves either as a tray, or you can also open this one, have another large box. What about the third seating row here? Well, it is, considering, decently comfortable, also because of the soft seats. Also with this perforation. You also have ISOFIX. You can install child seats here. When I have the second row, the way I could still sit in there, then it's, you know, hardly possible for me to sit behind that. So for adults in the rear, not quite. So either for child seats or, you know, when children are not that tall yet. Let's check out the trunk. 730 liters when the third row is down. Very interesting because, look at that. The width here in the rear, that's enormous, like 130 in meters or 55 inches. Third row up, but it's really easy to fold this one down. This is the manual function. And then for this second row, in this case here, the single seat setup, but you can also get the bench. 2 buttons here, and then they easily fold down. Wow, look at that. So the normal trunk length here, this is like 115 in meters or 45 inches. This one, and then to the driver's seat. Wow, this is like 2 meters 15 or 85 inches. Second interior, here the base line with fabric, gray leatherette, looks cool. And then in the lower part of the door you can see this really large door sill that protects the interior from getting muddy also in the lower part, like the entry badge and so on. Then you can see this different layout here also for the seats and the steering wheel. Also looks quite attractive. I think it's a cool thing that they didn't go like this just plain black everything, you know. This looks interesting, but it's still subtle enough, you know what I mean? So sometimes you have boring interiors, or you have like, you know, orange green over the top. Here I think they found a good solution. Look at here the seats once again, the all vegan seats as well, perforation, good material quality, is also very soft. And then for the headrest you always have fabric, and that's also a very soft cushion. Once again, think of it, when you have the relaxation seats function, then you really have a very soft cushion for your head, and you can maybe like take a power nap while quick charging. Do you like this interior better here or the GT line? Here, by the way, also very interesting structures right here. And once again, they brought down the CO2 output through the whole process with all of the materials they picked. This base version here, for example, has the manual steering wheel control, but it feels also really good. And yeah, I mean, why not? What I also appreciate is that we can directly pick the drive modes at the steering wheel. They see the vehicle with the standard mirrors, definitely prefer these, don't you? And everyone, please thank Leah for the camera work today, and she appreciates this function. Look at that, the mirror there in the sunshade is really large. The second rear setup, this is the through bench. You can see here 1/3, 2/3 split. I moved the 1/3 part forward. This one I moved backward, that you can see the difference there too. And then let's take a seat. The seat comfort is, I would say, comparable to the captain seats. The captain seats, of course, are a little bit more fun because the middle part is free. You can directly go through the rear seats. But this can also be more practical depending on your use case, of course. And then you can also vary the rear part here and you can slide it forward or backward. And that goes quite easily. Headroom here in the rear, by the way, with 189 or 602 is also no problem at all. Here, by the way, very nice soft ceiling that feels really good as well. What's also interesting is that we can directly slide this bench here. So we have one button here on the top, and then when I press this one, because they are here like this, and then you can easily access the rear. Just that I'm now in a bad position. Okay, took a trip around now. Here, what I also want to show you here, the manual sunshade, and it goes really wide all over the screen here. It's really cool. So good for the kids in the rear. And then let me get inside. So this works as well. And I've put this one here a little bit more forward now. And you can see once again, yeah, it does not fit that well for tall. But overall, it's nice to have this flexibility also for more child seats or for, like smaller children or something in the rear. Pretty cool here. For the second seating row, you have an own AC unit in the ceiling. And I love how they pay attention to details here. This feels also so good, looks cool here, open or close off the vents. And then you can also adjust them here. So open, close the vents, and then you can slide them around like this for the rear passengers. Pretty cool. And here a quick example how the base version is a little bit simpler. You just have, this cubby hole right there. You don't have this slider where you can slide it out and without the tray and so on, but you can of course also live with that. The trunk of the 7-seater is actually quite the same. Here you can see this through bench and then the same mechanism, put them forward. Super easy, straightforward. Look at that loading area. That's really amazing indeed. Then here in the front, by the way, there's some more space underneath here, but just barely. This is, for example, the storage then here for this rear cover. But cables, they rather think to that you store them in the front there. You also have 12-volt supply here. Then you have a real 250-volt supply here, but of course you can also use the vehicle to load function on the outset of the vehicle, so both is possible, like for the camping mode. And then, by the way, if you want to put up the third seating row again, it's so easy. Just pull these here like this, then secure it here in your favorite position, like this, and that's it. Two things remains to be seen. For example, if you can also drive in Europe with the seats facing backwards. Regulations are not clear yet. And also if the smaller battery will also come to the European market. But overall, you can say it is one of the best proposals for a large EV at this moment. Definitely, we can say so. We'll of course keep you up with driving, also check about the real world range and so on. It's time to take a look at the all-new Volvo EX90. Their big new EV SUV, a sister model to the Polestar 3 actually. And I have this remote control here today that I can show you some of the functions. Even here at this show car, you can see the interesting daytime running light. And the even more interesting thing is when you take a closer look here, they mechanically open this horizontal strip to make way for the actual headlamps here. Strong SUV design. And the CD value is at 0.29, so it does come at a cost. But do you like the design? Tell me in the comments. Everything in this part here in the top, where you could imagine there's like a taxi sign or something. Well, this is actually the LiDAR, so the laser sensor for all the assistance systems as an additional sensor type. Turning indicators, by the way, here, they replaced the daytime running light here in this lower part in a vertical way. Looks quite cool, doesn't it? The length here at 5 meters and 4 or 198 inches, so full-size EV SUV. Wheels here up to 22 inch. These are the big ones indeed, but however, an aerodynamic design. And yeah, even though it's not the most aerodynamic vehicle, there's a big battery inside, so it's 107 kilowatt hours net. And we can expect somewhat a range of 500 kilometers or 300 miles then. The door handles here, can use the remote control for that again. They fold out. Once again, it is somewhat aerodynamic optimization, but we know that door handles won't make a big effect. The wheels actually are more important in that aspect. You always get all-wheel drive, one electric motor in the rear, one in the front, and then you have two different versions like horsepower trims, and one acceleration is 5.9 seconds and the quicker one is 4.9 seconds or we can also say like 6 seconds and 5 seconds. Easier to remember, to around 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. Recharging has a 250 kilowatt peak and 10 to 80% state of charge. In fast charging will take 30 minutes. Bidirectional charging will also be possible. You also get a welcome light signature for the rear lamps. It's pretty cool. And this is here a typical Volvo SUV styling with this vertical orientation. So I think especially in the rear they did a good job to keep this Volvo heritage definitely. You also have a goodbye signature then for the rear lamps. And there you can see also where the turning indicator is put. Pretty cool indeed, as so the lights show. Top speed, by the way, is 180 kilometers an hour or 112 miles per hour. And is there a frunk? Yeah, there is one. Substantial hood here in the front. Then at least a little frunk here and space for some charging cables. This is, by the way, the vehicle color. It's called Vapor Gray. This is here Silver Dawn, so a little bit lighter. And there are more colors available. See it here. So for example, the white one, more golden one. And then we have rather dark tones. So there's no color that is really like screaming out, more, subtle Nordic colors, I would take it that way. Here, when the car is unlocked, once again, comes towards me, door closing sound. Is here not ideal, I would say. Maybe it's because of the prototype, but it also has this soft close function. Inside of the door, you can see the whole vehicle is in most cases animal free. Soon more details to that. Here you can see there's some kind of illumination background from the insert decor element, also from sustainable renewable resources. This wood decor, for example, different ones are available, and everything is reduced basically. Here you do have some window levers that do react, so you can push them down and up. Glad to have that. Huge door pocket. And then towards the interior right here, capacitive buttons on the steering wheel, hashtag capacitive BS. It does give some feedback here. It's kind of like a mix, I would say. And you can see, we know it also from the EX30. For the seat, they have just one button also here to fold the back part, front or back. So once again, reduction of complexity is one thing. Does it help you or is it just coast cuts? What about you? Tell me in the comments. And then let's get inside. Here on the seats, this is the only blend that does have some animal material, like 30% wool, 70% recycled PET. This is then more like this fabric surface. You also have a high-grade leatherette in 3 colors. I'll soon show that to you. And then here, headroom with 189 or 6'2" is, there's plenty of headroom left here underneath this fixed panoramic roof. Steering wheel can be adjusted in the infotainment system actually, and you have this typical high upward seating position, and it does remind you also of the previous XC90 generation. Here the EX90 is of course the spiritual successor of the Volvo XC90, just that they renamed it now because of this whole electrification process. And this will be the black Nordico high-grade leatherette without any stitching. Here's again, the fabric, how it looks like in the vehicle. Then there's this brown available, like here. The brown will have a stitching on the seat, or in the gray direction, also with stitching. This is like how the whole, high-grade leather looks like. And it's really soft, great quality, and once again also made from recyclables and overall reducing CO2 in the production. Interior cockpit overview, a very clean minimalistic design, 14.5-inch screen, vertical way. I find it very beautiful how this, first of all, wood decor element, and then matte wood, and then you have this illumination from the back part. Vents are still manually controllable, and we still have a manual volume jog in the lower part, at least that. Steering wheel here, plus minus for the volume. That's easy accessible, and the feedback it does give you is actually quite okay. To put in the gears is here behind the steering wheel, there's a stalk column, and then you have at least some small digital instruments with the range view, battery status and so on. There will also be the speed displayed. And there will also be a head-up display available. Pretty cool additional speaker here, by the way, for the Bose & Wilkins sound system. And the top part here of the dashboard, also soft touch leatherette with white contrast stitching. Everything else, like here, the temperature control, all in the screen while driving, of course, that's not too good. At least it is somewhat straightforward because it's quite logic here, like vented seat, heated steering wheel and so on. This is the main menu. They promise also Apple CarPlay connection. It is based on the Android Automotive system. That means you have a native Google Maps support, and it's also quite responsive, and it would also calculate the charging stops on the go. So this is actually a very good one, and so much better than all the other manufacturers who try to go their own way and fail by the software. Here in the lower part, by the way, you open the glove box. Upper middle console looks cool here with inductive charging pad, and there are also some holes that then ventilate the smartphone. It doesn't get too hot. Pretty clean styling here, and you can slide that one open and have adaptive cup holders and more space here underneath this armrest. In the lower area here you have a lot of space actually, and then you have two USB-C chargers and an actual seatbelt material to hold maybe another smartphone here and so on. Now very exciting to the rear seating area. First of all, inside of the doors, high-grade leather red material, so the material quality, the impression is really good. Then you have this through bench here, overall a 7-seater setup. There's also difference to the Polestar 3, which does not offer that option. Here you can also go for the excellence, then you would have single seating in the rear. In the second seating row, then it's just a 4-seater, but most people will go for that one. Also decent seating comfort here, and with 189 and 6'2", I still have a lot of headroom left. Legroom is a problem in a way. It does fit for tall adults, but remembering the Kia EV9, there I had more legroom when a tall driver was driving in front of me, so it works, no doubt about that. But I would have expected a little bit more. You can slide the seat forward or backward, and you can also adjust the back part here of the seat, make it a little bit more upright or more to the back. What I find cool is that you can individually adjust them all. So for example, just the middle seat you can slide for. That looks funny, right? So that is also possible. Then you have this known Volvo function that you can actually lift this one here up as a semi-child seat, so to speak. So this will be possible. And then you can lift this one down for some cup holders. Isofix here at the outside seats each. So overall, it's actually quite good in for the comfort for the seating. Yeah, but once again, a little bit more legroom here would have been cool. Let's see how it goes with the third seating row. Very important, when you fold the second seating row, the middle seat, you have to pull the strap, fold the seat down, and then it should not be hidden on the inside. You always have to put it outside, because then when you fold it down and really fix it, click it in like this, you need to pull the strap again to get the seat up. And when it's hidden underneath the seat, there's almost no chance you can ever put the seat up again. So yeah, very important. I think not a real customer-friendly solution. To fold the second seating row, you have to pull this lever and then manually push it forward. Now I crouch inside. It is really tiny, and I mean I can move the seat bench here a little bit more forward. But sitting here as a tall adult in the rear is kind of impossible. Headroom wise, maybe so, but Isofix here at the outside. So this is more like small children or another Isofix child seat situation. You have two more child seat possibilities here, but overall, once again, comparing to the Kia EV9, similar exterior length, but the Kia EV9 seems like double as big on the inside. This also belongs to my job, putting some light into third seating rows in a dark studio situation. This is the way. Opening for the trunk is way down there. It's 310 liters with all the seats up. See here, this is the third seating row, then we just have a small trunk, but then it goes to 655 liters when we fold the seats right here. We have an electric control at the side. And then actually, so now with some light for you, so this is here around 130 in meters or 51 inches, and the width is around 110 in meters or 42 inches. However, a cool feature is, we also saw that in the EX30, it is this will it fit. I always say sponsored by IKEA. So here you can see all the measurements in length, in meters and inches. Also here the width, which is the maximum actually you can measure. And yeah, this is a very helpful thing that you know before what fits in there. Underneath here, you have more space, and also this cover can be stored there. The only thing you cannot do is fold these seats from here, For that, you have to go around. There we go. Yep, you have to do some manual work for that. And then we have an all-flat area here, actually. It's time to take a look at the all-new Polestar 3, a new electric vehicle here for you on Autogefühl with Thomas in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with this brother of the Volvo EX90, which will be kind of the 7-seater version of this one. And this one here thought to be a 5-seater version, but still a big, full-size SUV electric. Indeed. Here in the front, very impressive styling. Here you have this Thor's Hammer LED signature, and Thunder is the color, so yeah, everything with this Nordic scheme. And you can see here the wind or the air is being channeled right here. You can grab underneath here, and then it's going all the way across the hood. Aerodynamics, of course, very important, especially for electric vehicles, because when you think about motorway, Autobahn consumption, so above 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour, 2/3 of the consumption is defined by the wind resistance. So even more important than for electric vehicles when they drive at significant speed indeed. You can also see this is like a smart zone sensor cluster, it says. So all the sensors are hidden behind here. Also here with the front camera, and you can also even get a LiDAR sensor for this one here. Let's take a look inside and the size. And the length and the length is 4.90 meters or 193 inches. That's about 14 centimeters or 5 inches shorter than the Volvo EX90, which just a little bit longer right here than for the 7-seater setup. Here the Polestar, they started as a performance brand for Volvo. Meanwhile, they're of course all electric. But the interesting thing is that this one here, the Polestar 3, will be less expensive than the Volvo EX90. It's also a very interesting proposition, right? Isn't it? All-wheel drive concept means one electric motor in the front, one electric motor in the rear. And you either get an acceleration figure of around 5 seconds, or here, with the performance pack, 4.7 seconds. Air suspension is standard, again with the performance pack. This vehicle is equipped with that one. The air suspension is a little bit stiffer, and you switch from 21-inch to 22-inch wheels, really massive. Wow, there's a very impressive design here. Really like the styling here overall. And in the side profile, sometimes the side mirror seems to be folded in. But that's a visual illusion because they are frameless indeed. And that looks very impressive, a very cool styling once again. Flat window line. So 10 years ago, this used to be a concept car design. Nowadays, it is reality. And then we have the rising shoulder line or hip line right here to form really, really strong hips standing right there to give you that full acceleration. Even the rear windows, by the way, are acoustic windows, so for even better noise insulation than especially on higher speeds. And higher speeds, the top speed will be 210 kilometers an hour or 130 miles an hour. Here in the rear, wow, what a modern, cool design here with the light signature. And also when you look at it here from the top, it shines through. So I really like this modern tech styling here of the Polestar 3. Then you can see also then from this perspective, you know, rather simple, clean, maybe even a little bit bulky design. But overall, I think design-wise, got at least my approval. What about yours? Tell me in the comments what you think about this new design. Naming-wise, by the way, this is very interesting. Polestar 1, Polestar 2, Polestar 3. Is there any logic as for size or vehicle concept? Not really, because they rather follow a concept, you know, like Apple. iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 14. And they also go just further with the numbers, like a new version of their brand. So there won't be any logical order. They just say the new car is again like one number ahead. Yeah, Michelle just commented from behind the camera. So when's the Polestar 3S coming out, or the Polestar 3 Max or 3 Plus? Yeah. So about battery and charging, the net capacity is 107 kilowatt hours. And what range will we get? Our first estimate is something around 500 kilometers or 300 miles as a realistic figure. Of course, in the driving test, we'll find out more. Recharging up to 250 kilowatt DC. And that's supposed to bring us then state of charge 10 to 80% in around 30 minutes. And they also check the box for bidirectional charging. So V2L, vehicle to load, or V2G, vehicle to grid, will also be possible. Do you see that? This will be a retractable towing hook because it does have some towing capacity. So 3,500 pounds or 2.2 tons. Yeah, it's quite reasonable for an EV. Let's make our way to the interior. Here, the door handles. They also give you some kind of feedback right here. Interesting. Door closing sound. Yeah, sounds quite solid. And here, this is, a very early vehicle. There are hardly anyone's build left, but this seems so far quite good, also from the gaps and so on. Then here on the inside, we have some fabric hues. Very nice integration here, also the Bowers & Wilkins logo. So this is kind of concept car-alike design, but it's not a concept car anymore. That's very interesting, isn't it? Then here also the interior with a clean Scandinavian style. We have the matte or open cell wood here, very nice, and once again fabric, so there are not so many high gloss black areas left. There is on the steering wheel here, however, so this will then be illuminated with the functions, but it does give you some kind of feedback at least. Small digital instruments. Then the seats, they still are somewhat, I would say, Volvo inspired from the seat form. This is here the animal skin spec. However, they also offer as standard the so-called Microtech material, and the Microtech material is very interesting. It's animal free and also not based on any petroleum, but they use pine oil then for that seat together with some more recycled materials. That's very interesting and definitely also a way to go then. Steering wheel will always be animal free, at least that's what they say, and you can be sure when you go for that in the Microtech interior. Seating position here so far, it is kinda narrow, I would say. Also the front windscreen here really flat, so it doesn't give you much view to the outside. This one here definitely, also if you compare it to the Volvo EX90, gives you that sporty approach actually. So from the outside, definitely SUV alike, but when you look at here on the inside and how the seating position is, definitely feels sportier than it looks from the exterior. The seating comfort from the ergonomics of the seat is actually quite decent. So we know this typical Volvo seating comfort, and that's also the same case here. To me, I think it's also more comfortable than in the Polestar 2. As for the headroom and so on, this seat is at the moment put in the middle position. So this car on the motor show in Brussels is not powered here properly. It's in a demo mode, therefore I cannot lower the seats. Sorry for that, I asked them, it's not possible at this moment. But you can see with 189 or 602, even if the seat is in the middle position, there is some headroom left because this one here is a fixed panoramic roof, and that also ensures a lot of headroom. Here, this interior cockpit overview, wow, once again, how clean everything looks. And here, with the matte wood styling, I really love that. And here with the fabric dashboard, sound system, Bowers & Wilkins, once again, very nice design integration. Wow, I really love the cockpit styling. What about you? Tell me in the comments. 14.5 screen here in the vertical layout. As we know, with the Android Automotive integration, so a native Google Maps integration, we know that from the recent Volvo and Polestar models. You will also have a basic main menu right here. Once again, pick the Google Maps, and also, for example, Spotify integration. A camera will also feature this drone view from above thing, and it will also have the inbuilt Google Assistant, for example. This once again to go back to the map, and here using that button in the lower part, you can also then stop or start the music with that system. Here this loud and the Spotify looks. As for the temperature unit, it will be placed in the lower part then like this here, or you use it with the voice command, and this then here the levels for steering wheel heating or the heated seats, and also, seems to be working parallel, also heating and cooling. Why would you do that? In winter times when when it's cold and at the same time wet, for example. Then here you can see nice realizations for these air vents. So this is like the extended climate control. So this all seems actually pretty logic. Yes, I do like separate turning knobs for the climate unit, but yeah, people who leave it 22 degrees or 72 degrees Fahrenheit and auto probably won't care that much. And also interesting here, the Volvo or Polestar models, recent version with the Android Automotive system, they also have an inbuilt route guidance, which includes their charging stops. So the Google Maps system here then also just suggests like when and where to charge on the route. So indeed, all the EV factors, so to speak, they are ticking all the boxes here. Lower middle console here in this flying design with more space here, and then you have another space right here with these rubber bands and 2 USB-C chargers. The glove box will be released from the touchscreen and then it will go down here. It's not possible here at this moment. And on top of the middle console, yeah, this is a big high gloss black area. You will still have this one button here for the sound and also for start or stop and play. This one here then, the cup holders, also adaptive style. And then you have some more space underneath right here. And inductive charging is right here in the front. Rear seating looks promising, and also look at the middle tunnel, of course using that all EV platform, so a flat bottom, that's of course way to go. Also at the inside of the doors and the rear, nice material use here on the top, again with fabric, so we don't have like a hard black plastic surface or something, so that's also cool. And let's see. As I said, the seat could not be changed in the front, but it was more or less okay from the length. So you can see here, there's also plenty of legroom left. You sit actually quite low in the rear here. See also from the angle of my legs. Wow, I mean, that gives you a lot of headroom then. So it's like, you know, this is Michael Jordan proof here in the rear indeed. But you feel a little bit lost because you sit really, really low there. But it's not uncomfortable at all. By the way, in the performance pack, you also get here these yellow seat belts as an additional contrast. That's quite cool. Middle seating then is actually decent because no middle tunnel. It's a little bit stiffer than on the outside, but you can easily drive this vehicle here with 5 tall adults. And in the middle part here, we can fold down this. And then we have pushing here for the cup holders. Other than that, there will also be seat heating available here via touch for the rear seats and 2 more USB seat chargers. If you, by the way, wonder where this car is being built, so far in China, but by mid-2024, they will also introduce a manufacturing plant in the US in South Carolina. Did you wonder, by the way, since 1959, this is the introduction of seat belts, of these 3-point seat belts by Volvo. And Michelle also told me, yellow, yeah, did I say that? Yeah, it's rather orange. So, you know, with male or guys and colors, sometimes we struggle, you know. Trunk or boot with electric hatch and about 480 liters of space or 17 cubic feet. 90 liters or 3 cubic feet of that is underneath here. There is some space for a charging cable, but we cannot show that to you here today because they hide all the tech stuff. Is that guy watching? Are you still here? Yeah, but there's just, you know, some tech stuff underneath, so there will be place for charging cable. So then 1 meter or 40 inches is the length here of the trunk, and the width here is a little bit more actually than 1 meter or 40 inches. So actually very good dimensions. I already folded 1/2 here of the seat, and here the height is some 65 centimeters or 25 inches, and you can see here this will be also fitted with a cover. And on the other side, on the right side, not sure if you can see it, this one will probably be then, you know, like an element where you can also electronically fold the seats. So here we go, and the total length to the front seats is about 190 meters or 75 inches. And they also thought about a frunk, about 32 liters, so another charging cable or something is also fitting right there. So my verdict is a very hot competitor here in this big EV SUV segment, alongside the Volvo EX90, the, so to speak, internal competition. Let's go. Did the glove box just open and everything fall out of the glove box? You can scream, it's okay. You just hold your breath, right? The Tesla Model X receives an intensive update or even facelift, and the new Plaid version, the most powerful one. And here was Thomas and Autogefühl for you in 4K, full screen and full length. That's how you watch our channel. We'll tell you all about it. What you need to know, is this still the benchmark of EV SUVs? Here in the lower part, this part was before black. in a separate piece. Now the whole front is basically one piece here in the lower end, so a more aerodynamic and also fluent design. And one of the aerodynamic pieces is also here in the side part, this air curtain. The air is being channeled through, goes in here and really exits then here in the wheel arch. So even better aerodynamics, better efficiency for the Model X, together with new headlamps. 5 meters 04 or 198 inches is the length of the Model X. This has remained the same, but changes here in the side profile. In general, for the update or for the facelift, both also for the Plaid model here, blacked out frames, so the chrome delete as they call it, so it looks sportier, more sinister. Also then here the door handles are in black. Wheels here then also in black, and either 20 or 22 inch. These ones here are the bigger 22 inch wheels, so overall a sportier, more present look for this Model X. Interesting also technology wise, so you either get the normal dual motor concept, or in the most powerful Plaid concept, then you have 3 motors in general, because you have 2 at the rear axle, 1 at each wheel, and that enables even better torque vectoring. Overall, more than 1,000 horsepower of power output. We'll also then tell you later more about the acceleration in the driving part. Air suspension is standard, so you also have a more comfortable ride than in the Tesla Model Y, the smaller SUV. As for the rear, usually I'm not a fan of black details, because to me it looks sometimes a little bit over the top. But here for the Tesla models, I think it looks indeed more premium when these details here are blacked out somehow. Because the Model X especially, it doesn't look that sporty overall, but with these black accentuations, I think it fits here very, very well. Are you team black accentuations and black wheels? Tell me in the comments. Or team chrome? Decide for yourself. Top speed here, by the way, for the Plaid model, even a little bit faster overall, here at 260 kilometers an hour or 160 miles an hour. Even for German Autobahn, more than enough. And as for the battery size, it remains at 100 kilowatt hours net. And in the Model X should bring us just an approximate average, like 450 kilometers or 270, 280 miles. So not as far as the Model S, because this one is not as efficient as the Model S. The acceleration figures, around 4 seconds for the normal model, 2.5 seconds for the Plaid model. Yeah, but the thing is, they do it with this rolling start. So in comparison to other manufacturers, these are kind of like, these figures are a little bit nicened up. So it will be a little, a couple of tenths slower than these official figures. But if you use this acceleration, you have to recharge at some point. And here the charging flap is in the rear, 250 kilowatt of a charging peak. Here then AC/DC charging, here the supercharger, and supposed to be a little bit less than 30 minutes then from 10 to 80% state of charge. Doors open here, and you can't really show the door closing sound because here the electric motor pushes it a little bit open, and you also work against this soft close, so slamming it is not a good idea. So indeed here this is then the soft close of the doors. Then inside of the doors, new materials here, really good. All soft touch. This is all leather. The whole interior is now animal free as well. And here the fabric inserts. Look at that. This looks pretty premium. Also behind it, 22 speakers overall in the vehicle. New premium sound system. This is here how you open the door now, or close it. You've seen it. You can also close it with that, but also with pressing of the brake pedal. And then here, of course, one of the biggest news is this yoke steering wheel. It is open on the top here. So you have a better view to the digital instruments, but is it also better or worse for handling? We will find out in the driving part. Seats here now perforated once again, and that means also the seat cooling is available. And this perforation here looks cool, it feels really nicely, and this is a very good soft quality, so improve the build quality here as well. And this is another example of how to go animal free, but at the same time high quality and without losing any luxury, more gaining luxury. Seating position, nice upright, very comfortable. And the new seats here, ergonomics and also the material, this is really a good plus, definitely way more comfortable than the ones before. So I think a very, very good upgrade indeed. And everything from the controls, most of it is done in the touchscreen. And then, for example, you can also control the side mirrors from here, or when you want to adjust the steering wheel, you have to click it in the menu, and then you can also go like here in and out then with the button on the steering wheel. Also here for this yoke steering wheel, Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y customers will know how this works. And first impression of the yoke steering is weirdo a little bit, definitely. It's quite wide also. It feels like, in like a computer game or something. I wonder how it is, when you ease the car in and out of a parking lot. We'll also try that in the driving part later. New interior overview, really impressive. And you see here the screen is now horizontal, like in the Model Y or Model 3. Very interesting. At the moment, the central view. But, however, when you go into display, then you can also tilt it towards the driver. And that way you can really better see that. And when the car is stationary, you can also tilt it towards the passenger, actually, when you want to watch something or control something. That's a cool thing, but for you to see it better here in the static part, I leave it then in this center thing. Soon more details for the infotainment system. Here, definitely, once again, the view on the yoke steering wheel. It is a cool view to the digital instruments, yes. And the good thing about X and S is, in contrast to Model 3 and Model Y, you have digital instruments, and I think it's essential to see that, and not only the speed up there. 2 inductive charging pads are still here, and you now also put the key card there to drive the car right there. And one thing that is really new as well is there is no stall column here whatsoever. Here, by the way, is now the drive mode selector. Slide it forward in the screen, then you can drive forward, slide it backward in the screen, then you drive reverse. However, there's still one alternative. When you press this lower bar here, these buttons appear for parking, reverse, neutral, and D, so you can also use it here in the lower area. To me, I think I would still rather use this. Turning indicators are also on the steering wheel here with these capacitive buttons, but they give you some kind of feedback, and yeah, I think it's not too bad. And on the right side here for the cruise control, and here also for the voice input, a separate button now. And then here the instruments, they change when you have it in drive, then the speed right here. So pretty clear and crisp, everything I need, and definitely prefer to see the speed while driving. And when you have the navigation set, on the left side you also see a small map. The screen here with the map integration, wow, that's really responsive. Way to go. It's really, really very cool. And then once again here with drive, reverse or park. Here you can also open the doors, for example, or the front or the trunk. And in this classic car menu, as you know from Tesla, here you can set your settings here, for example, the flat acceleration mode, or also if you want to go for chill, a little bit more drawn back, for example. Lights, here you can also activate the daytime running lights. When we're filming outside, we like to do that. Display, you can also change the brightness. This at the moment the dark mode. There's also the light mode, but for camera filming, it's sometimes just too bright, or you can leave it on auto, then it's automatically adjusted. As for the climate unit, here also you switch between heat and cool. That way I can activate the seat cooling or seat ventilation, and here then the seat heating. Both at the same time, not really possible. Or voice control. Activate seat heating. There we go. And the voice control really works very, very nicely. And this is also direct access to the rear view camera here. They still don't offer Apple CarPlay and Android Auto because they say, hey, our system is the best ever, and then we don't need Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I don't agree with that. Their system is really cool, offers a lot of possibilities, but I think you should still give the customer a CarPlay connection if customer wants to. By the way, if you see these weird lighting effects in the screen, that is just on camera and not for your real eye. There we see it, but it's really just on camera. You don't see it with your eyes. Lower middle console, still 2 inductive charging pads for your phone. And then this is kind of like a split opening. You slide this one open here, or you can also slide it to half, like this. And then even further, this one open and the cup holders away. And then there's more space underneath. And then under the armrests, just lift it like this and even more space. And here when I want to get out again, here, press the door and you see here, it almost opens completely. It's a very good comfort feature. And then when I hit the brake, I can close the door. It's a very nice comfort feature indeed. But what happens when someone is standing on the outside? A small kick. And when you close the door here, what about that? Yeah, you feel it, but it doesn't hurt that much. Yes, these Falcon doors are still very spectacular, and you see they also can open in quite narrow spaces, narrower than you think actually. And here with 1.89 m or 6'2", I can still stand underneath them. So the setup is 5-seater, 6-seater or 7-seater for the Tesla Model X. That has been unchanged. Unless you go here for the most powerful Plaid version, then there's only the 6-seater. And the space behind the driver's seat is actually, put that all in the back, is not that plentiful. So when I'm driving here, you see it does work with the legroom, but it's not too far. Yes, I'm always using a lot of seat space, so it does work for tall adults, but close actually. What about the headroom? So when you come a little bit closer, and you can also come here inside and see here behind this seat, the thing is like there is this glass roof here also, and then you still have enough headroom left. So here, oh, yeah, here it's just a little bit closer. And by the way, if you've seen that I'm a little bit banged up, yeah, actually I had an accident in soccer practice, so I got shot literally, and so I look a little bit that I was, in a fight. So yeah, I began soccer practice now more intensively again since Germany dropped out of the World Cup. I think there need to be some replacement players, right? So, and a good thing here with the 6-seater is you can basically go through here. The kids love it actually. You can install ISOFIX child seats here and here, but then you can basically crouch through here through the next bench. You now also get here this screen in the rear, and there you can, for example, control the vents here, and that looks really fancy. And for this digital solution, it's quite easy to control. So gone are the manual days for the vents. More and more manufacturers go in this direction indeed to control the vents by that. By the way, this screen will also be used for streaming, so you can also watch then here in the rear while driving. For example, watch some Autogefühl, of course. There we go. Yay! And hit subscribe if you haven't done so far. And while I am watching the newest episode here, oh, by the way, here subtitles. We always offer now English subtitles as well to turn off or on, depending on your liking. So if you have problems with hearing, that's of course for you. Or maybe also when you are in a situation where you can't listen to sound, then you also have the subtitles. And in the lower part here, 2 USB-C chargers and cup holders. They fold out in a premium way. Also, have a little bit flexible here. So it's actually a very nice solution. And here in the third seating row, yeah, I can squeeze myself through here. No ISOFIX. And, well, as a tall person, you cannot fit here behind these seats with your legs. But I can squeeze my legs somewhere here in the middle. So at least you can go somewhere. For emergency situations, it works. It's more the case of children that are not that small, that they still need a child seat, but not as tall yet. So something in between, and then you just have this flexibility. The German manufacturers with their EVs quite often do not offer a frunk. Here, of course, they do. A lot of space then here also in that front trunk. Means trunk. And now the trunk. Here we go. And the width here is about 1 meter or 40 inches. That's good. Here a cabin trolley fits in behind the third seating row as well. You press these buttons then here to release them. Head restraints fold, and then you can push them like this. And then you have this normal trunk length, which is to these seats here. It's like 115 in meters or 45 inches. And this is then here a very big hole in the trunk, like really massive space. Then of course also for charging cables and so on. And well, you could move these here a little bit more forward, and the advantage of the through bench is that you can fold it, but then this case then here with the captain seats in the 6-seater setup. Well guys, I want to start this Thomas's driving lounge with the Tesla Model X with the German Autobahn, because this is the Plaid model, and we know it from Spaceballs. Just after Ludicrous, there's only Plaid, this grid, and well, when we're getting on the German Autobahn here from 40 kilometers an hour, let's see if we're in a safe way. We have a lot of traffic here today, so we have to wait a little bit behind this one, and let's go. Did the glove box just open and everything fall out of the glove box? You can scream, it's okay. You just hold your breath, right? Did that just happen? Okay, from 80 kilometers an hour, one more time. Holy 140. Oh my gosh. And now from 100 kilometers an hour, let's see if it's still something. And that's 200. Oh my goodness. Oh. You know, I'm used to driving fast cars, but this is getting the adrenaline heating up for me as well. Oh, whew. Yeah, that was something incredible, and I really have to check the time codes for the acceleration in there. That is really something. So it is not something for everyday driving, and yeah, indeed, it is so fast that it's not that safe to do it, definitely not. So please don't repeat this at home. Yeah, at home of course, but you know what I mean. So for everyday driving, I would rather, I'm even a little bit dizzy now in a way. Wow, that is like here, you can also pick the chill mode, for example, and then when you accelerate, then, you know, the throttle is just a little bit delayed. But however, you can always push it through. It's a little bit more still, but even then, you don't get the full acceleration, even when pushing it through. So in chill mode, it's really chilled out, is definitely more relaxed. Sport would be something in between. And Plaid then, oh yeah, I want to raise that 350Z. And Plaid then, of course, with the full performance, full acceleration. But that is something out of this world indeed. Here now the yoke steering on the motorway is actually quite good, so that's no problem at all. Also when you do some lane changes here, for example, then it's fine. And then I'm really positive about it, because it kind of enables me a better view to the front, not only to the instruments, but also here it's unobstructed. So I really like it on the motorway. And as for the reactions here, it's quite direct indeed. And for the lane changes is all fine. I think it's really later on go on depth than on, you know, parking in and out on the parking lot and so on. But here for the motorway, it's actually totally fine. And maybe also one more step towards this autonomous plan that Elon Musk has. And suspension-wise on the motorway, since we have the air suspension here, we have good comfort also, especially this air suspension is working well when you have some waves, you know, that everything is even out. Still, it's set on a more or less sporty tone, that you don't have too much shaking up effect. The thing is with sedans versus SUVs, when you start driving, they always first feel more comfortable here in these SUVs. But then when you drive a little bit longer, this shaking up effect of a higher center of gravity can be a problem. However, since we have the all EV here, batteries are placed in the lower part, and then the center of gravity is also low, and therefore you also don't have too much difference between SUV driving and sedan driving in electric vehicles. That's definitely a very interesting thing to have. The overview here, by the way, is quite good. Also the view to the sides. Just a small back mirror here has always been a thing with the Model X to the rear view there. It's a little bit limited as for this respect. Cruise control, one click for the normal cruise control, then you just set the speed, and double click, like you had this double click on the stalk column before, for the autopilot feature. And again, autopilot doesn't mean it's full self-driving yet in a way. However, it has active lane keeping assist right here. You are still supposed to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but you see here it also holds the lane, but never trust 100% in it. And now we are free to go once again for acceleration. Let's see, we may go for before this one. Now from 100 kilometers an hour, one more acceleration. You ready? Oh God. 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. It's like nothing. It's really like nothing. Yeah, and when this white bomb comes from behind, you better make free way for this one. Wow. It feels kind of futuristic as well to control with the yoke steering wheel. So it has, to me, not only pros and not only cons, it has both basically. And yeah, this one here, Model X and Model S, especially since you don't have this sound feedback, it is one of these vehicles, because it's so extreme in the acceleration, that it tends to make you a little bit sick, even though when you're the driver. Usually it's just the problem of the passenger. You still okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so there's a way to impress your passengers. So, yeah, but this car is really, it can make you sick while being a driver. Usually it's just a passenger problem, because the passenger doesn't know when, you start to accelerate, when you start to steer and so on. But here it's so extreme and you don't have that sound feedback, so this can actually happen. But it's a lot of fun. It's great to steer around, really direct. You have to be careful with the steering, because especially at higher speeds, it's not that natural. It's more like an arcade feeling, computer game feeling, fits to the yoke steering wheel. So then when you're driving fast, there are kind of sudden steering movements. So you have to be really gentle. And also when you want to keep, want to care about your passengers, be also gentle with the throttle and gentle with the brakes and with the recuperation and so on, because otherwise they will get sick a little bit more. So, especially because there's always hard recuperation here with the Teslas. You lift your foot off the throttle, there's significant deceleration. Oh, and there's another Tesla Model X behind us. There you can also see the pre-facelift, pre-update changes. Yeah, you can't see that here at the moment, but there's like this black bar in the lower part. Very good to see that. So thank you for driving behind us, that I can compare it. Wow. Whew, what an adrenaline ride here on the German Autobahn, on the motorway. There's the Tesla Model X, let's overtake. Oh, and also with the chrome and so on, there you can once again see the difference. Wow, yeah, a lot of fun here also with the lane changes. Definitely a performance fun mobile. When you drive that fast, really use that acceleration, then of course you're also higher in the energy consumption. Yeah, most of the time probably you won't use it every day, but when you when you need the power, then you always know you always have it more than enough and more than anything other combustion powered here on the road. Well, what about easing this car in and out of the parking lot? So I feel like a real shifting lever is always a more connected experience to the vehicle. So it works here with the screen, but I'm not too happy with it. But it's also not a big problem or something. But here then, when I think that the steering wheel concept here, it could be cooler when it's a little bit smaller, I would say. And then here easing the car in and out of the parking lot. I'm not sure how it looks like on camera, but it kind of feels a little bit weird. Yes, you will get used to it, definitely. And here, for example, the good camera system here, but it doesn't feel that natural when you're going left and right again. So for parking in and out, I would definitely prefer a normal steering wheel that you can, better grab around and so on. That doesn't feel that good. However, when you then start normal driving and so on and do like this and this, then it's actually no problem. Of course, the better view to the screen here is only when you have it straight like this. As soon as you go like this, then it's really, really blocking everything. Kind of a little bit of mixed feelings about this yoke steering wheel. I would really be interested to hear your opinion from, maybe you have already tried it yourself in your Model S or your Model X, and if not, what do you think from seeing this then here while we steer it around? Is it something that you would fancy, or is it something that, what you say, like, when it's like this, no, I don't want that at all, actually. So then here a little bit of city or street driving. Also with the turning indicators, it takes a little time to get used to that. Here, for example, it doesn't feel that safe while driving, you know what I mean? Yes, when you are in a Formula One car and have this kind of steering wheel, it's cool in a way, but they are also a little bit more progressive then, so maybe more progressiveness would be cooler than here for this steering wheel. Yeah, the turning indicator thing, you get used to that, and visually that everything is reduced with no stall columns and so on. That's actually also a cool thing in a way, but it also reduces, once again, physical interaction with the car. I do get these new technologies and so on, but for me, myself, I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but I like more physical interaction yes, with humans as well, as with vehicles. So I like to touch things, you know. I think that's a human thing, so I'm not sure if this kind of like dehumanizing the vehicles, if all of that technology really adds up to an advantage, you know what I mean? By the way, I'm still in this plat mode, and when you are gently controlling the throttle, it does work, it's no problem, you can get along with that. However, if you're not on a demo tour with your friends or here showing off in the car review, I would rather recommend to get to the chill driving mode, because then you just drive this car in a more relaxed way. It will also be then a little bit more efficient because you don't hammer the throttle that much. And in the parking lot, for example, everything just will be smoother from the reaction. As for the comfort while city driving, by the way, so I still try to... Where is that? Where is that? Ah, yes, I have to press it. Yeah, that's one thing you will get used to, definitely, over time. So as for the suspension here, when you have some smaller bumps on the roads and so on, air suspension is definitely good to have it, and it's better than in the Model Y, like 100 times better than in the Model Y, where you don't have air suspension. But here with the 22-inch wheels, that's with every brand, when you have these extremely large wheels, you feel these small bumps in the road a little bit more. So for more comfort, I would advise to stick with the small 20-inch wheels. Yes, you lose the visual show effect, but you will gain comfort. And back on the motorway here, the aerodynamic form of the Model X also plays a good role. For example, it's also reasonably silent in here, and they now also use active noise cancellation here in that interior. Really interesting, because I'm usually not a fan of that. In a lot of vehicles so far, it has been a very unnatural experience. So you felt like you have this vacuum next to your ear. Here, it is very, very silent in here, but they haven't integrated in such a strong way that you would have this strong vacuum effect next to your ear. So I think so far it's fine. What about you? Do you think it's okay, or do you feel like any unnatural vacuum feels? So yeah, she also agrees, and yeah, that really brings down the noise level even further. And what about the fuel economy? Of course, always fuel economy. Yeah, that's what we always say. Energy economy then in this case. Always depends, of course. And now I try to go more like cruise control motorway, more steady speeds and so on. And then, of course, you can score some good figures around, some 22 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So some 30-something kilowatt hours on 100 miles. That indeed confirms this earlier estimate of round about 450 kilometers of range, or like 280 miles. So once again, the Model S will come a little bit further. You can also bring this one further if you drive super efficient, have more low speed experience and so on. And of course, if you use this acceleration all the time and high speed, then the range will drop down. Very interesting or important fact is here also, It is quite cold here today, and we still score these figures. So first of all, and motorway, so aerodynamics top, and also this new heat pump. Model S and Model X get the heat pump now, and that's why we also don't have a bad effect now here in winter. So this heat pump system reduces the difference between summer and winter range of these electric vehicles. So a very good feature to have. So it's not a new SUV at all here, but with all these updates they have done, I really say I'm impressed. They have stepped up the game and put it really into a modern era here without changing the model like completely, without presenting an all-new model. They've really made very, very good and significant updates. So overall, yeah, I think this sets it back to one of the benchmark EV SUVs here in this segment. The BMW iX, in my standardized German review, BMW's big EV SUV, range test in wintertime, recharging, fast charging test, and of course an Autobahn special here in Germany. Let's go! A massive stance here in the front with that BMW double kidney. Is it still a double kidney? It might be even a mono kidney, isn't it? And with this closed look and also this anti-scratch surface, so it can heal itself when it's really hot outside or when you use a hairdryer. I've tested that out and it really works. It's kind of magic indeed. These are here, by the way, these plastic 3D number plates, and they're even supposed to be more sustainable because they're lighter and also they take less materials, less resources to produce actually. The headlamp unit with nice daytime running light, LED is standard, and option you can also get laser lights with extended high beam function. Then you also have these blue accentuations on the inside. And what's also pretty cool is this, the cleaning effect for the front and the rear view camera. So in the front, a very spectacular effect, and also in the rear, that looks really fancy, isn't it? You might wonder, does this thing here in the front open? No, it doesn't. No frunk. With a length of 4.95 meters or 195 inches, it has the length of the X5, is as flat as the X6 and has big wheels just like the X7 indeed. In this case here the optional 22-inch wheels. And we have a minimal white car with black frames and around the windows, sport pack, and also the iX stamping here with separating the roof and the rest of the body. The normal version, the entry version, which you can get with a smaller battery, also starts with an adaptive suspension without air suspension actually. But here, this is kind of also the entry level in the US, the X550. That one automatically comes with air suspension, also the rear axle steering, and also the bigger battery, 105 kilowatt hours net. I'm not really okay with the front double or mono kidney design. However, the rear, I think the design is really cool. Here, slim tail lamps, great integration. I just love it. So, although it's a big car, it doesn't look that bulky in the rear, I think. But it does split opinion. What's your take? Mineral white is this one, but we already had a Phytonic blue vehicle. And there's also a Sophisto gray vehicle we had in our test. And the sports performance version, the M60, we have here in Storm Bay Metallic. That's also a very fancy color. The sporty difference of that M version, however, is somewhat limited. So a realistic winter consumption, motorway driving, steady speed, so actually in a rather efficient way, but around freezing temperatures here, 29 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That would be rather less than 400 kilometers or less than 250 miles of winter range. However, what you can always do very well with BMWs here, since factory consumption, so the whole 3,800 kilometers this vehicle has been running so far, and there we have this average, 26 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, that's around 40 kilowatt hours on 100 miles, and that would be exactly 400 kilometers and 250 miles. Well, most of the time, it was rather cold when this vehicle was running. Better consumption figures in summertime. Only in ideal summer conditions you can score some 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or then some 32 kilowatt hours on 100 miles at nice summer temperatures and steady speed. Then this vehicle also does some 550 kilometers or 350 miles of range. What's really interesting is we will do a test now, a comparison test in charging. We'll start with a rather cold battery, just a little driving around, and then afterwards speed it up on the motorway and then do it again and see what's the difference, 10 to 80%. This will be very interesting. So I had quite some effort to put this car exactly to 10% state of charge. Now here at the fast charger, this is kind of like, you know, unlimited speed almost. This can do like, I think 350 kilowatt or something. So the car is the limit, 200 kilowatt max peak. Let's see what we can score. And we are starting at around 100 kilowatt. I did do search for vehicle charging stations and added it into the results so the car knows I'm fast charging. BMW says also the car does need that to precondition the battery. However, I did get no confirmation from the car that it's being done, so I don't really know if the battery was preconditioned or not. That is always something that is lacking actually. And what I also found is that at first search, just AC stations were being shown, although both were in the list. So I then filtered it here basically to DC only, and then actually my desired station was appearing. And you could see obviously the precondition either didn't work or it maybe wasn't long enough or something. We remain at about 100 kilowatt, which is not bad actually. But of course the car is capable of more. So meanwhile we picked up speed at around 140 kilowatt. So we have now 10 to 30% in about 15 minutes. Couldn't hold that peak for too long. Now we are already dropping down again. We have something more than 80 kilowatt hours, or then now 80% state of charge in almost 52 minutes. And now one more time, the battery is now properly preheated. I really boosted it on the motorway. It has to be really hot now. Let's see which difference we can score. And you can see the charging power immediately hops way higher, 164 kilowatt already. There we go, already reaching the peak. So yeah, we can already see right now this will be a massive difference. So there was a slight error in the charging process now. I had to restart it actually. Here also when you restart the process, immediately is already at the high peak. There we go, nice 170 kilowatt, the peak charging. Here about 60% state of charge. Power drops slightly to about 120 kilowatt. Closing to 80%, here with 80 kilowatt still. Here we go, although we had this charging error in between, just over 30 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge. And you know, if you combine this one here with the amount we charged before, so around 80 kilowatt hours net into the battery right there, back in these just over 30 minutes. Comparable result to the Mercedes EQS actually. And so actually quite competitive. Again, it needs to be preheated. You need to speed it up on the motorway that the battery is actually warm enough or just drive for a long enough time. And indeed, 20 minutes difference is actually when it's cold or at the proper temperature, 20 minutes different, either 30 minutes or 50 minutes charging. Cockpit overview, super clean. Visually, that is really lovely, isn't it? The steering wheel has a very, let's say, interesting form. It looks futuristic, but is it really better to grip and handle? No. Really? So I was talking about the steering wheel and the voice assistant just got activated and is now suggesting me this? Have you seen that? Is that real?
Should I connect you to the concierge services?
No.
All right.
And you also have this effect here, where basically two screens dissolve into one visually. Of course, they are two separate ones, but looks definitely cool. At the steering wheel, you have here the volume control. And it does give you some feedback. However, it's this kind of glossy area. This is for the voice input here, and this is for settings then, both for head-up display and the instruments. Left side for the cruise control is a mix of a hard button and some capacitive things. Well, are they capacitive? Yeah, I mean, more or less, I would say it's kind of like a mix. And as a comparison, this is the interior then at daytime and at darkness or nighttime. Of course, more ambient lighting features come alive then. These are the animal skin seats that of course doesn't fit to a modern EV, but they have plenty of sensor tech choice in different colors. We already saw the beige one was really beautiful. Then there's also a fabric wool mix available as alternative, but I would probably stick with the bright sensor tech seats. Seating position here in the front, upright, comfortable, and you also have these comfort functions that the steering wheel, for example, lifts down and towards you then. When you start up the vehicle, you have this electric control here. Interesting form for sure. Headroom with 1.86 or 6.1, no problem right here. And of course that panoramic roof. So overall quite cool and comfortable here in the front. The seat control at the inside of the door looks fancy, and it also still moves, unlike at Mercedes. Here again this crystalline scheme, but also here I would recommend to stick with the base scheme because it does not reflect light. Here once again it can blind you while driving depending on where the sun is coming in. Lower middle console here with adaptive cup holders, then two USB-C chargers, and the inductive charging pad for your phone is interesting because it also indeed has these holes where the air is being sucked away so that the phone doesn't overheat like we know from 5 Series or X5 or so. Then here in this upper user interface, middle console area, I have my basement garage beeper in here, but you could also fit a smartphone there. Then you have this turning pressing knob. It has good feedback and Thomas DJ. So some hotkeys, matte wood background. This crystalline look, by the way, is optional. So you can also get the more basic one, and I would recommend the base one because this one here does give you some reflections when there's sunlight coming in. And then the drive selector, you can also go to the B mode then by putting it one more time behind. This is then still a volume jog. It just flickers on camera, by the way. And here is the My Mode selection for the driving modes, which is to me too complicated because then you have to press it in the lower console and then you have to select the mode. So always 2 steps, and then it stays like this. So if you want to go back to the GPS, for example, you have to press the back button in the middle console and go back to the CarPlay, or I have to hit the nav button again. Why? Recuperation here, by the way, you can see here it always goes down then here when you drive to this adaptive mode. In a normal D mode, I can also put it to the B mode. This is then more or less one pedal driving. The D mode, however, is also very interesting because that one is kind of like an adaptive mode for recuperation. So the car is rolling when there's no one in front of you, and it is harder recuperating, doing this regenerative braking, when there's a car in front of you. And that could be a good solution between the old discussion, is one pedal driving better or is rolling and then regenerative braking on demand better? This here, this compromise in between is to me at this moment the best solution. Screen, by the way, only flickers on camera. And here let's listen to this 4D sound system, Bowers & Wilkins, and you do get a very interesting sound, and this also has vibrations in the seats, for example, at the bass moments. But then again, I think that the sound is great, but not worth another 4,000 or 5,000 euros extra in comparison to the Harman Kardon sound system. So there's bass, Harman Kardon, and then Bowers & Wilkins. So I would stick with the Harman Kardon sound system because I think it's also, they have a long-term BMW partnership, and I somehow think that the sound itself fits more to the brand. Well, in operating system 8, I have to say I found the OS 7 better. Here, the new one. Look at that, how many apps you have here. Then you can filter it, by the way, for example, here just for vehicle apps. But there are so many things that are more complicated than before. The climate control, for example. I used to have a button at the steering wheel for the heated steering wheel. Now I have to go into the climate menu and then do it here like this. Would there be an alternative with the voice assistant? Maybe, let's see. Heated steering wheel.
Sure, I will activate the steering wheel heating.
Okay, so that is the alternative. So make things more complicated, and then maybe voice recognition is a solution. However, here you cannot turn off the AC function, so like the dehumidization. So sometimes I like to drive without AC function on, but just have the ventilation on. Not possible here anymore, actually. And what's also very important is You can turn off these, these driving sounds, for example. And the thing is always like, where do you have to search for that? Now, like when it's like, oh, I want to have the BMW iconic sounds off. So where would I do that? Live vehicle maybe? No, these are like the recent city consumption. And then it's always like, okay, what am I doing now? Okay, is it maybe vehicle apps? Is it system settings? Is it, what is it actually? Driving settings? That might be, right? Here's iconic sounds. But, there we go. And then iconic sounds off. Okay. However, this startup sound then by Hans Zimmer as well, this thing here. And back again. This cannot be deactivated. Yeah, and you can see here the climate unit went into the screen for such a solution. It's actually quite okay because it always stays there. Still no really buttons. One good thing of the OS 8, however, here it does not only support Apple CarPlay but also Android Auto.
There is one big advantage to OS 8, however, here. When you have the Apple Maps from Apple CarPlay running, then it can also be projected right into the instrument cluster. Not possible with Google Maps though, sadly. Just with Apple Maps. Well, and this is how Apple CarPlay also can look like. Speaking of BMW OS 8.
The glove box, by the way, opens here. It's not really intuitive and really small. And then we have the middle armrest area here, split opening and some more space. Here the electrochromatic shade in that panoramic roof. That is very spectacular, isn't it? Something of the ambient lighting you can already see from the interior. For example, here then at the doors. Oh, and the voice assistant is trying to tell me something. So the voice assistant, not sure if here it is still trying to tell me something while I'm filming. And here you can see at the rear has the voice assistant is telling us something all the time. I'm not sure what is going on there. Okay, then here you can see no middle tunnel in the rear. That's of course cool and leaves you a lot of space then. You sit indeed quite comfortably in the rear. Enough legroom is left even when there's a tall driver, and headroom wise with 1.86 m or 6'1" also no problem, and a good view then through the panoramic roof. The bench is kinda short, so for tall people it could be a little bit longer, also quite plush, but overall the offering of space is really cool. And also in the middle part, since there's no middle tunnel, EV platform, you can easily then overall house 5 tall adults. Well, and here in the rear area we find a bit of old school classic BMW, because here that rear climate unit, that is still something to touch for real. Yeah, that's kind of like a luxury now for the rear passengers, isn't it? And you can also get 2 USB-C chargers for the rear, and this is then like a mount for rear seat entertainment. That trunk area houses 500 up to 1,750 liters, and I prepared something for you here with a cabin trolley. And this is 1.40 meters in length and in width, good dimensions. And the total height here is about 75 centimeters or 29 inches. Below the cover, 45 centimeters or 18 inches. And here you have a space for your charging cable, for example. So that's coming quite handy actually. And here, also with a click mechanism, good build quality actually. And then we can also fold the seats. I'm doing it on the right side here, and I can do it simultaneously. Look at that. So that is folding really, really nicely, all the way flat. And even the voice assistant is being activated from the rear here. I cannot believe it. And this is almost 2 meters. So it's like 1.90 meters or 75 inches. And I have to speak a little bit louder so you don't hear the voice assistant. I didn't quite understand you. Oh my God. Hey, what's up? Thomas's Driving Lounge with the BMW iX xDrive 50. So 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear. We go to the My Modes drive selection, select Sports Mode. The screen actually stays where it is actually. So 4.5 seconds is the official acceleration figure, and we'll do a rolling start from 40 kilometers an hour. See how that thing rockets us forward. And let's go. 100. 150. went 200 almost, because that one in the front won't make way, but this was pretty quick, right? Really spontaneous acceleration, and some sound noises here from the BMW Iconic Sounds, as it's called. And when I'm talking about BMW Iconic Sounds, the voice assistant gets activated.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
I have the experience that the voice assistant is constantly activated. Not sure if they think that people don't talk in the car. Yeah, very interesting. Here, lane change at higher speeds, super stable, and it's also extremely silent in here. So that is very notable. Really, really cool. By the way, I've tested before about the high-speed consumption, and that's usually around double the energy consumption than you normally have as an average. That means with this vehicle you can go somewhat a little bit less than 200 kilometers or less than 125 miles at around 200 kilometers or 125 miles. That's pretty interesting, right? About the normal consumption figures, a little bit more than we've already seen earlier on. Yeah, I can just stress again, the winter is paying its toll, although this does have a heat pump. That's the thing. Now we're getting into tunnel, and you see the driving mode selection stays where it is. So once again, here while driving, it's so complicated. My modes, then activate the driving mode, then it stays there, and if I'm having the GPS running, then I have to deactivate that screen or go back somewhere like this or hit nav or something. I don't get it. I mean, has no BMW test driver ever driven this vehicle before releasing it on the market and switched to a driving mode and realized, what is this? You know? I don't get it. But here, ambient lighting is pretty cool at the windows. This is really fancy, and this vehicle delivers such a smooth and flawless ride. I mean, really spontaneous acceleration. It's one of the most silent cars overall we've been driving, and you have to say, here at high speeds, no, the car will get dirtier, just put it to the car wash. Damn it. Yeah, here the road is still wet. So this car is so silent, and at high speeds we don't have any engine noise covering something up, you know. Being an EV, well, maybe with these iconic sounds, but that's basically it. But there you feel how silent this car is really, you know, laid out to be. Extremely awesome, and good steering feeling, really nice. Air suspension is doing a good job. A little bit stiffer in the sport mode, so we have a little bit more feedback. Normal mode, then it is actually a little bit more forgiving and softer. So what a great setup by suspension, steering, noise insulation, performance, and the overall feeling for the vehicle. The seats could deliver a little bit more side support, I would say. So you tend to fly around in them, especially on the animal skin equipment, a lot actually, when you are in some faster corners. Essential to the driving is also the rear axle steering. We will experience more of that later on, but already here you can kind of feel, also when I'm coming to that 90 degree berm, then it feels a little bit artificial as rear axle steering do, but you feel that the rear is basically coming around a little bit, and also when you're going like in slalom like here. At lower speeds it steers the rear wheels in the opposite direction than the front wheels, and this massively reduces the turning circle. I had one situation in the city earlier where with some vehicles I cannot do a U-turn in one step. And this is a massive vehicle size-wise. And here U-turning is no problem at all because of that rear axle steering. Dual electric motor, air suspension and rear axle steering is, that means in this like the integral active steering they call it. It is actually standard here for the for this model, otherwise optional for the lower battery entry model. So here you basically get the full package. Here also when you accelerate out of the corners, really nice and smooth. Rear, this is beautiful, beautiful. Rear axle bias still. I can just stress again, it's a big, heavy EV, but it feels so light and agile. Also really worth to tune in to my Alpine, spiraling roads or winding roads special I had at the other review. That was also a lot of fun to watch. To tune into that if you're interested at a later stage, of course. Here, heading one more time to the tunnel, I can tell you more about assistance systems. You activate them here, left side of steering wheel, and then you can set either normal distance control, that's possible, a speed limiter, or the assisted driving mode. And in the assisted driving mode, then we also have the active lane keeping assist. And you can see here, I'm supposed to keep my hands on the steering wheel. It's level 2 autonomous driving or automated driving. And here we have a slight left turn inside the tunnel, and there's hardly any visible steering movement from the vehicle, so it really keeps me in the lane in a very smooth and non-obstructive way. That is lovely done. My mode selection, once again, sport mode. When we are already at speed, is there something left in the EV tank for that? 90 kilometers an hour, go. Kilometers an hour now, and it is on, everyone. Wow, really awesome. Wow, how well this car is behaving here at higher speeds, and still it's relatively silent considering this is like notable speed. I mean, yeah, welcome to Germany. It's like German Autobahn, and like everything on like, okay, what else? And that's also enough speed for today. Just letting the car roll now. Massive rolling power now, of course. And on the brakes, sometimes there can be problems with EVs that the brake blending, so it's called, is not that good. So the transition between where the recuperation ends, or is at highest stage, and the real brakes are being applied. And here so far, a very smooth and controlled feeling indeed. So can't complain about that at all. It really feels very natural. So all the hardware facts they've put here into this vehicle, you really feel that all that experience from decades, of BMW vehicle building went into this vehicle. Although it's basically an all-new one, and they don't have so much experience with these EVs.
Pardon?
Not pardon. I'm not talking to you, man. Or, in this case, woman. Sorry, lady.
Please try it.
The hell?
Which of these areas would you like to learn more about?
None. I'm just talking to the guys at the screen, sitting at home or whatever, or being on the way. You're not part of this, are you? Well, we can ask her something, right? What do you think about Mercedes?
I'll leave that up to you. As a digital assistant, I can afford not to have my own opinion on everything.
She can't afford to have her own opinion on everything. Well, this is a very diplomatic answer. And we know these answers also from Mercedes. I would have wished they would have been a little bit more daring, and saying like, yeah, screw them, or something like this. That would have been fun, right? Okay, back to countryside driving here. Once again, I love that smooth driving feeling. People have asked me, Thomas, what about BMW iX3 versus iX? The iX3, based on that X3, is more or less a normal vehicle to drive, just with the electric drivetrain. Also quite good efficiency figures. And then the all-new iX with that separate, platform. You can put bigger battery in it, and so on, and efficiency, blah, 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 blah. And what did I do now? Yeah, and that drives me to the point. This is an awesome vehicle, and it's actually one of the best EVs out there, with, in many different aspects. Not maybe the winter range or winter efficiency, but everything else is really awesome. But what I do appreciate with the iX3 is that it's a normal car, you know. This vehicle here has a lot of things we already realized while driving, which scream out like, hey, let's change things because we want to change things and not because it's better. The steering wheel looks awesome and futuristic. Is it better to handle? No. That the climate unit went into the touchscreen looks cleaner. Is it better to control? No. The BMW OS 8 looks fancier. Yes, you can use Apple Maps in the instruments. You have more functionalities. Is it easier to use? No. And you can add this and this and this and this and this, and then...
Try one more time.
The hell? What? Did I even mention BMW? I did I in some way...
Which one of the destinations shall I select? Which one should I select?
Now I'm driving to Belgium? Why? Did I at some point mention hello BMW in my speech? Did I? I mean... And this is exactly the reason I really love this vehicle. I love the drive. It's awesome. No doubt. But for this exact reason and the reason I just mentioned, I would actually take a step back, save the money, get the iX3. Big problem is that the Harman Kardon sound system, and I think there was the panoramic roof as well, you can only get in high trim, and then it's connected with animal skin seats. The hell? So I take an iX3 with Sensatec seats. Steering wheel is also not animal free, neither in the iX here nor in the iX3, also a favorite BMW, but I would still take the iX3 for being more simple. In the iX3, I can get in the vehicle, I know exactly what I'm doing, where is what. It never fails any user interface command I'm giving, no matter how I do that. The voice control is already working, the infotainment has a good overview. It's almost a perfect EV, besides, you know, some animal skin and trim combination issues, especially for our friends in the UK. The iX3 is awesome. This one is also awesome, but the user interface is really getting on my nerves. They have made it more complicated than necessary. That's the problem, and I'm not willing to pay double the price for a car that is harder to be controlled. That's the thing. So if you ask yourself iX3 versus iX, save the money, get the iX3, you'll be happy. Other than that, if you compare this one here, for example, to a Mercedes EQS, this one it is, because this one is still easier to handle than the Mercedes
Please
EQS.
try once again, in surroundings that are as quiet as possible.
Sorry about that. Talking about the EQS versus the BMW iX. So I would still take the iX because the ride is just more awesome. It is still easier to handle. Especially in the US, you have more options for animal-free seating, for example, than with the EQS. And overall, I feel it's a more fun and more desirable vehicle. And it will be compared, of course, to the EQS SUV, which you will also see here on Autogefühl very soon. So subscribe if you haven't done it so far. Yeah, but overall, I mean, just the feeling, you know, and the comfort. The EQS is not good in driving comfort. It's even worse in winter efficiency. So the EQS to me, a little bit of a hit and miss at this moment. I don't know, maybe they had to rush things or something. Probably the improved one will maybe be better than at this stage. And here also the more, I think, better usable vehicle overall. So yes, still I love it. I love to drive it. It's a spectacular vehicle, no doubt, with the shortcomings I've just mentioned. And the voice assistant is running. I mean, I'm almost... Can you cancel the voice assistant? Oh, speed camera here.
Sorry, I didn't. Please retry.
Yes.
Also,
I hope I was slow enough. Man, because they put like a 20 kilometer speed limit here. Well, it didn't flash, did it? Did you see any flashing here? I didn't, you know, so yeah. Gotta pay attention to that and call all my friends living in the area here. Warning, there's a speed camera coming. Yeah, back to the vehicle. Once again, here in the corners with the rear axis steering, feels really amazing. Rear axis steering is one of the advantages, of course, also if you compare some of the competitor models. So, still enjoying the ride very, very much, but it is something we can talk about for hours and hours and hours. Indeed, this is also what makes this car so special. I mean, when you look at this review and also our earlier review, so many things we can say about this vehicle, so many things to discuss. That's what I really appreciate. It is the farthest you can imagine from being a boring vehicle and from being standard. And I think this is also something that BMW intended to do, you know. The same they intended with the new double kidney they introduced with the 4 Series. Talked to the designer at that stage and he said like, okay, my task was that people talk about BMW design again. And the same thing they also achieved by putting the BMW iX on the road. People are massively talking about BMW again. That's what this vehicle is also for.
Is this the best Mercedes EV yet? A full driving review of the Mercedes EQE SUV with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here. You can see the closed front grille here with an optional micro star pattern. Very beautiful design indeed. This is the AMG line. That means sporty accentuations in the side lower part. We'll soon also comparing the electric art line. This color is also very special. It's called Alpine Grey. It's a special AMG color actually for the AMG line here. And we also have a beautiful shooting location here on the Portuguese coastal line. 4.86 meters or 191 inches is the length of the EQE SUV, so the smaller brother to the EQS SUV. This is more than in a competition, for example, with the BMW iX. Wheels from 19 to 22 inch. These here are the 21 inch wheels. At the side you can open this one here for the wiper fluid, for example, but you cannot open the hood. There's an optional HEPA filter underneath when you order that one. And technology news here for the EQE SUV is you can, if you have the all-wheel drive version, it means one electric motor in the rear, one in the front, decouple the front electric motor so that you have efficiency gains when you do not need it. But you can also get an entry version with rear-wheel drive only. Testing here the EQE 500, that is an all-wheel drive model. And these technology updates that come with this vehicle here will also go to the other Mercedes EV models like the normal EQE, the EQS and so on, EQS SUV. But this one here starts it. And there's the second news, not only decoupling of the front wheels, but also standard heat pump now, so you will have less range losses in winter time. This one here visually comes with this side step here, this really cool design element and also aerodynamic performance. And then here we more have a coupe line, I would say, and with a very strong shoulder area. Another technology highlight leads us to the rear axle, because the rear axle steering, that's an option, can turn the rear wheels in the opposite direction than the front wheels up to 10 degrees. That massively reduces the turning circle by up to 2 meters, easier U-turns and so on. And design-wise here in the rear you can see this light strip going across, and on the sides you have this 4-element spiral, whereas the EQS SUV would have this 5-element spiral. Very interesting. In the lower part, AMG line. Are these even pretending to be fake exhaust? What do you think? And battery size, by the way, it's always around 90 kilowatt hours. You might see in the price list there are some versions with 89 and others with 91. They don't differ that much. It's just from a different supplier, but the charging times are also pretty much similar. It's always around 30 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge if you have the biggest power boost, which is at 170 kilowatt peak.
Turning indicators, replace the daytime running light in the front. And the rear turning indicators, at first sight it doesn't look that spectacular, but when you look closer it uses these vertical structures, and that looks quite cool then. Also features a very cool welcoming light signature. Look at that when I open the vehicle, how the light builds up. There we go, pretty spectacular.
By the way, not to be recommended, but yeah, sometimes I just can't help myself and also do fun things with vehicles which are not useful. Yeah, not releasing the parking brake and then slightly applying the throttle. Again,
don't do it. But it looks weirder, right? And here we can very well see with the two Alpine Grey AMG color cars, here the side steps, we have it on our main vehicle, and here's the same color, but without that side step. It really looks different, but which one would you prefer? Aerodynamics wise, by the way, the side step is better. It actually serves aerodynamics because the air is being channeled in a better way underneath the vehicle to the rear. And more colors for you. Here, for example, a Sodalith blue, a rather darker blue tone, but I think it suits the vehicle very well with the same 21-inch wheels. Or what about here, this diamond white bright vehicle? You have more contrast than here with the wheel arches in that case. 19-inch wheels, so you can see how the car looks like with smaller wheels. Yeah, the bigger wheels do look better, right? But then with the air suspension, you can also even out this comfort difference. And here we can also see a difference, AMG line with the sportier accentuations in the lower part, and the electric art line is a little bit more subtle, has this more closed look, not that sporty, and also more chrome in the lower part, more set on elegance. And here you can also see that this star pattern is just an option, doesn't have anything to do with AMG or not AMG line, but hey, it does kind of look cool with the tiny stars, doesn't it?
And this is how it looks like in silver, or what about in all black. Moving towards the interior, this is the key fob, really premium-like, like that. Then here the door handles, flush, integrated, and then you can open them like this. They are an option in the EQE SUV, and I think it's a little bit over-engineered. Then door closing sound, it's really solid. Inside of the doors, this material is called Neotex. It's a new material, neoprene-alike. It's a mix of microfiber and leatherette. Feels cool, looks cool, really nice. Then here at the inside of the doors, you also see this nice integration of the ambient lighting also here around. Just a high gloss piano lacquer here, and the lacking haptic feedback of the seat controls, what I would criticize. This is the AMG line interior, soon going to compare the electric art interior. Here also with the optional hyperscreen, which looks fancy, but is it worth it? Soon more deals to that. Here the steering wheel, AMG line with two spokes, left and right. The electric art steering wheel would look different. And these seats here are the comfort seats. They are sport seats and comfort seats. Also in the AMG line, you can go here for the comfort seats. The sport seats not available in the US, and they are also more narrow. Here the comfort seats are definitely better. Here with the animal skin wrap, and you see here it already looks old and it feels kind of rough and hard, so not good material quality. And here we can see soon that the electric art Artico cover is way better indeed. Seating position, I'm really happy with that actually. Good comfort here on these comfort seats, and even more than in the electric art with the full Artico interior. This is also better than in the sedans, because here you sit a little bit more upright. And with 189 or 6'2", you also have enough headroom. This is also the version here with the panoramic roof, by the way. And it leaves a lot of light in, really cool. You can also open it, that's also cool. Is it very well usable? More or less, because already like 60 kilometers an hour or something, there are a lot of wind noises, so it's not the best panoramic roof to drive at higher speeds. You have to know that if that is then relevant for you or not. Rear doors, here also with the high-grade leatherette and the Neotex on the top part. It's really well done as for the build quality. Then you can see no middle tunnel, purpose-built EV platform. That's good actually. And since everything is more upright, and although you have the shorter wheelbase than the EQE sedan, you have a lot of legroom here. It's no problem at all. Headroom also works for tall Ls, so 5 tall Ls is fine. Just that the middle seat is a little bit hard at the back part. The outer seats are definitely way more comfortable. And in the lower part, we also have a separate climate unit here, but it's this one button design again. And below that, 2 USB-C chargers. And here we can fold down the cup holders. This is like a smartphone holder, and then like this, you can release the cup holders. Interior cockpit overview. This is here the optional hyperscreen, like one glass unit, 17.7 in the middle, 12.3 inch on the sides each. This is the passenger screen, which now is featuring this personalization with your favorite image, or maybe also of your dog, your cat, or your wife, or your husband. So which one would you actually put there at the passenger screen? This is optional, however, and I'm not sure if you would go for that because it is really expensive, can be up to like 8,000 euros extra. And the base setup here, we can also soon show that to you, is to me actually a little bit nicer even. Here the digital instruments, nice visualization. You can also pick the style, sport your way or understated, or then the map full screen. And wow, this is cool with the satellite view definitely. But my favorite is off-road. That, yeah, just looks coolest, doesn't it? And the head-up display is really large, and you can also have some GPS visualizations in there. Some love it, some think it's too much. The ambient lighting, I found it pretty cool actually. You have this color transitions if you like. You can also change the whole color, and either in a multi-color way or maybe also just a single color, so you can really pick that. And what's also quite cool is that when you use the AC unit, you can see warmer or colder as an additional visualization. What are you actually doing? Apple CarPlay or Android Auto integration is really massive indeed, and also works quite quickly. Wireless or wired, both is possible. Burmester sound system or Burmester is really, wow, good sound, and they concentrate on having the original source basically transported to the sound system as accurately as possible. That's their goal. Then you can also see the satellite view in full glory. Wow, look at this. That looks really, really cool, right? Here, for example, you can see that here from the sights in Lisbon. That looks, wow, like in a game, right? And new with this software version introduced by the GLC is here that you have the see-through bonnet with that camera. This is the live camera feed, and this then here in the middle part is being built up while driving from a past camera image. But here you can see it helps that you can see if there's a sharp stone underneath the bonnet and maybe damaging the tires or something. The passenger screen is only active when there's someone on the seat with a seat sensor, and then you basically have the mirroring of everything else, but you can also have video streaming while driving. That's the difference, and the driver then cannot see it. Beautiful matte wood decor. Really cool. And then inductive charging pad, two USB-C chargers, but also here the adaptive cup holders. But when you have like heavier glass bottles or something, small ones, they don't hold them that tight. Then let's make it clean closed again. Here there's a unit for the driving mode selection, for example, and start-stop of the vehicle. Then you have the split armrest with more space underneath. Not to forget this huge space here underneath the middle console with more charging possibilities. Let's also take a look at the electric art interior we have here, starting at the inside of the doors with these nice new materials that is neoprene finish. And listen to that. Also, when you touch it, how it sounds, really cool indeed. This is also the base steering wheel. That one looks better in the AMG trim, I think, because again in AMG you have the two-spoke design. Here there's one-spoke design. But this interior is also without any animal materials, and the steering wheel feels good. And also here with the seats, this is very astonishing. This here actually looks better and feels softer. And look at this different cockpit. This does not feature the optional hyperscreen. Then you have this vertical layout like we know from a C-Class or the S-Class and so on. And you have here space for decor element, and you can pick different stylings. So a very interesting 3D structure underneath here. So I found actually more beautiful without the hyperscreen. And also here the digital instruments are not integrated. They're more upright, and they give you actually better visibility, because when it's leaned backwards, then the sun can also get to that a little bit better. Here, this way, better view. So this solution here saves money, and to me, it is also better as for the user interface. What do you think? We flipped the logo here to open the trunk or the boot. 520 liters up to 1,675. And then here, this says no rails at the side, but it's actually good in the build quality. And then underneath here we also have a lot of space for charging cables. The length here is 94 centimeters or 37 inches, and the width is also between the wheel arches, easily a meter or 40 inches, you can see it here. And the total height is also important. It's actually quite substantial, 72 centimeters or 28 inches. So this is how you can use the trunk. You can also fold the seats right here, but you have to grab over. There's no remote lock or something, and then you can load through the front seats. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge. We start with the sport mode. Acceleration, slightly uphill, but does it have really enough power, let's go. Plop, that's 90 kilometers an hour. Woo! That went really quick. I mean, the official figure was 5 seconds, like what, 4.9. Whew, more punch from the rear, from the strong electric motor. Wow, I was really pushed into the seat. That was a lot of fun, really cool. And we first check out the agile driving characteristic here, because the EQE is shorter than the EQS SUV. And so also gives us more driving fun. It feels definitely more agile. This here even has a shorter wheelbase than the EQE sedan. Very interesting concept indeed. However, due to the low center of gravity in these electric vehicles, the batteries are placed in the middle bottom part. The difference between driving a sedan and an SUV body type is slimmer here with electric vehicles than it is with combustion engine models. We have no shaking up effect or something. In the sports mode here, this optional air suspension is set on the stiffer note, so there's no rolling or something. Really cool. The rear axis steering at higher speed gives us rather more stability, because then it turns into the same direction than the front wheels. At lower speed, soon going to show that as well, it helps with turning circle and also easing the car in and out in the city and parking lots and so on. And yeah, this is a lot of fun indeed. Pretty cool. It is not the most sporty EV overall there is. There are sportier EVs out there, but considering what you expect from the outside, how the car looks, doesn't look like a sports SUV or something. It's also not supposed to be one, but it is really decently quick and it is still fun to drive. The steering input is really natural and likable, and you see, you don't have to steer that much. Mercedes has changed that with recent new models. Before that, you had to always steer quite a lot with Mercedes, more set out on comfortable driving straight and so on. Now you have to steer less without, it being too sensitive or something. I think they found a very good solution here, that it's sporty, fun to drive. You don't have to steer too much, but still remain with this very natural steering character. So in this case, I think very well done. And also here in the city, since we have that shorter wheelbase and the other models, feels actually pretty much at home. You can ease that here around also more narrow roads and so on, no problem at all. Most important thing in city driving is when you have the optional rear axle steering in the highest build, up to 10 degrees, the rear axle goes in the opposite direction than the front wheels, and situations like these, it feels like you would be turning on standstill, like wow, that's really amazing. I mean, it's not a small vehicle at all, but this option actually reduces the turning circle by 2 meters. So this has essentially a turning circle of a small vehicle. Did you hear this chime, by the way? It's very interesting, this new law for European vehicles, which are coming new to the market, new homologation, that actually you need to have a warning chime as soon as you exceed the speed limit, even if it's just 1 kilometer an hour. And the thing is really, it can be very annoying because, let's be serious. When it's 40 kilometers an hour here and I maybe hit like 41, who cares? That has nothing to do with speeding or being dangerous or something. We all agree that especially in the city, especially like where children are present, everyone has to slow down and drive the according speed limit and watch out. No doubt about that, I'm absolutely pro, keeping the speed limits, but keeping it realistic and not annoying for the driver. I think that's the key thing. Mercedes has thought of that. That's very interesting. So when you exceed it once by just, maybe a small minor or polizia, then you can either click the small symbol here on the screen. There's like a traffic sign symbol with a speaker, or the alternative would be to hold the mute button for a second, and then actually this chime is being muted. By law, once again, this is reactivated every time you restart the vehicle. Yeah, and with some vehicles we had, for example with the Neo vehicles, we had really funny experiences because it was like very loud, annoying. Maybe it is done like by voice assistant, that it really literally tells you you have exceeded the speed limit. Here this chime, but I think it's pretty cool that they directly thought of that to have actually 2 very easily accessible shortcuts to turn that chime off. Yeah, this is the thing where the development of the car industry is heading to. Everything is more and more automated and things are getting also more and more annoying. Some things, improvement in safety, are good and also help us. Some new technology features are beneficial for customer and also for safety and so on. But if that's really so beneficial, I don't know. What do you think? And motorway 80 to 120. Top, that's it. Was even a little bit more, so that was slightly down about. The power is definitely there. And here, Portuguese motorway, 120 kilometers an hour is maximum, this part here. And super silent here, although it's quite windy outside. Close to the sea, it's quite normal, but the noise insulation from the windows and so on is really very good. We have the optional air suspension in this very vehicle, and it really gives us good floating comfort. With the 21-inch wheels, of course, when you have some fierce bumps in the road, then you do feel them. If you would go for smaller wheels, you could even that out better. But I like that the air suspension is not too hard, actually, and you can also adjust a little bit by the driving mode. Here in the S Sports mode, it's a little bit stiffer. Here in the comfort mode, then you have more floating effect, and that really gives you good comfort, definitely, while driving. So you can enjoy it, at least from the comfort aspect, also on the motorway, also long term, even better than with the shown Artico seats because of the softer surface, if that's available on your market. As for the assistance systems, you can sit here on the steering wheel, adaptive cruise control, ruling back and forth, and also left and right here with the active steering. Here on the Portuguese motorway, they are not that high in speed compared to Germany, but here you can see we can very well test because there are quite a lot of times that like bend, especially here in this Lisbon area. Here right side, I didn't steer at all, so you see very smooth reaction here from this active steering assist. That is indeed also well done. If you, by the way, go on the brakes, then you always have recuperation, but hardly any in the normal recuperation mode. And then you can adjust it here at the shifting pedals, so to speak. For example, you can go left for strong recuperation, then you have much deceleration when you go off the throttle, or on the right side, no recuperation. Or then the last setting is D-Auto. That is doing, for example, when I'm closer here to the vehicle in front of me, and I have D-Auto, and then I go off the throttle, then I have recuperation, for example. But then when the sensor is not picking up anything here, when I have more freeway, there's no recuperation, it's just rolling. And I think that's a good setting. There's always the discussion between predictability or making it purpose-built, you know what I mean? And you can argue both ways, both have something. The only thing is, no matter which setting you pick, after a reset of the vehicle, after the next drive, everything is anyway reset on the normal recuperation. The reason is not because the manufacturer wants to tease you or taunt you. It's a mandatory reason by law because they have to make these driving cycles always in the same recuperation mode. Yeah, but that's not ideal for the customer. I think regulation-wise, this should change.
Ideal temperature conditions today here for running battery electric vehicles, and then we could score some consumption figures of 20 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's some 3 miles per kilowatt hour, meaning a real road range of 450 kilometers or 280 miles. Again, it would be a little bit less than in worse conditions temperature wise, but the new standard heat pump will hopefully also even that out a little bit more.
A very special review with the new Audi Q8 e-tron with a comparison of the SQ8 Sportback e-tron. Here with Thomas on Autogefühl for you in 4K, full screen and full length. Let's go. Where does it come from? How does it sit in between the competition? Tesla Model X, Mercedes EQE SUV, or the BMW iX. Let's take a look here at the front. And that's one of the things they have majorly changed. Exterior changes, technology changes later on. Here we can see the mask here around and then the single frame grille inside. Before it was the Audi e-tron, their first electric big SUV. And now they say, hey, we have made so many e-tron models, we have to position it in the model portfolio. That's why it's now called Audi Q8 e-tron. To see, this is approximately the size also of the petrol version. From the inside color here, this is a special edition where you have the inside color with the matching exterior color here in Kronos Gray. But you can also get it in different colors, for example, blacked out in the black package as well. And also the frame is in different versions available. In the SQ8 it would be bright, for example. And the new design feature is also here, two-dimensional Audi rings. They take away the three-dimensional chrome look. They say mainly for design reasons, to make it more modern, up-to-date. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comments. And then they have two versions. The background is always black, but then here this is like a gray ring, but you can also get it in the brighter styling. It looks very clean. However, I was also a fan of the real things you could touch, you know. So far in this segment here, it wasn't the most efficient vehicle overall. They have now improved that, for example, by increasing the aerodynamic efficiency. So now CD values of 0.24 or 0.26, depending on the Sportback or the SUV version. The Sportback is always better. Then here in the lower part, they also optimize the air breathers, or these air curtains. So the air goes in here, goes through the wheel arch. This has been optimized. And also how the wind is flowing in the underbody of the vehicle. Here at the inside of the grille, this one opens on demand, actually just when cooling is needed. Another efficiency measure. Styling-wise, by the way, here this lower part is more accentuated in the S-line, which we have right here, or than in the SQ8. Otherwise, in the base advanced line, it's a little bit smaller. And only from below you can see the wheel spoilers, and they are actually one of the best efficiency gains. Very interesting, right? Because they channel the air from here to the side away from the wheels, and that is bringing a lot of gains in efficiency. And have you actually seen this new detail? This light strip above the Audi rings? Right there. There we go. This looks really amazing, right? It's an option. And when you take a closer look right here, this is not the light strip. It is where it is mirrored in the paint. And it originates below. And that's the reason why it's legal, also in Europe. 4.92 m or 194 inches is the length of the Q8 e-tron, and wheels come from 19 to 22 inch wheels. These ones here are 21 inch, also in an aerodynamic design, then here blacked out. Wheel arches are always painted either in vehicle color or in a contrasting dark gray tone. So they have also optimized the styling here, and also the model name is always indicated now here at the B pillar. Other than that, you have the base SUV shape or then the Sportback shape, and both versions, SUV or Sportback, are available then in different powertrain versions with different power output. What have they done with the batteries? Massive upgrade. The so far biggest battery has been increased and is now the small entry battery. And the bigger battery now is a completely new, even larger battery. So now you either get 89 kilowatt hours net for the 50 model, or for the 55 model and the SQ8 you get 106 kilowatt hours net. So that's an increase by 25 or 20 kilowatt hours depending on the battery. So massive increase. So you get plus 100 kilometers or plus 60 miles of range with this upgrade now. And what does that mean for the real-world driving range? We'll test this vehicle thoroughly throughout the next days, and then at the end of the driving part, we'll tell you about the final test consumption and then tell you about more about the real-world range, but it's way better than before. That's clear for sure already right now. Rear design here, light strip goes all the way through, modern tail lamp design, and then the lower part here in a contrasting style. This diffuser in the lower part is here more accentuated, and this is always the case in the S-Line or in the SQ8. Driving dynamics wise, also massive changes. Reworked suspension, air suspension is standard, but the front axle is, a little bit stiffer from the setup especially. And then you can get, on top of the normal air suspension, a sportier air suspension setup that is standard for the SQ8 or then also for the S-Line. For the S-Line you can then again depick it, but not for the SQ8. Yes, this is the channel here where you know more details even before you go to the dealer. And recharging, the small battery, 150 kilowatt peak, 28 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge. And the bigger battery, 170 kilowatt peak,
and 31 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge. And that is indeed very good as for the improvement, because the batteries have become larger. So the time didn't really change that much, but since the batteries are so much larger now, this is also a significant improvement. Here, when you press this button, the charging flap opens, and there you have AC and then DC charging below. And here for the passenger side, you can also get another optional AC charger. A really cool solution. Also the flap is opening, closing, very premium-alike. And a feature you would usually see, for example, where do we know it from? Yes, for example, from Rolls-Royce. Here, inside the wheel, the caps here, they can be turned actually. And yeah, you can maybe show it off to your friends and do like a Ferris wheel or something here. That looks also quite cool, right? But the function, of course, is that it stays upright even while driving. Let's take a look at that. And turning indicators, cascading style here, that looks always really fancy, doesn't it? And you also get the cascading turning indicator style for the front, at least when you order the most expensive headlamps. And acceleration figures, 6 seconds for the so-called 50 model, the Q8 e-tron 50. Then this one here, the 55, is 5.6 seconds, a little bit quicker. Both have 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear. And then the SQ8, that one at 4.5 seconds with 3 electric motors, one in the front, 2 in the rear, and then also enables even better torque vectoring. These here, the all-wheel drive models, do torque vectoring by brake intervention. The SQ8 can do torque vectoring by one motor at the wheel, even just spinning quicker. That's of course a better form of torque vectoring. And now, look at that scenery here. The first scenery was amazing already. And that one, that's just beautiful. And also with beautiful color. This one is now ultra blue, a typical Thomas blue we call it here on our channel, because this is my favorite color. These light blue colors. This one in here is now the SQ8 e-tron and also the Sportback version. Once again, you can get an SQ8, the sporty version, for both the normal SUV version and the Sportback. So it doesn't really matter. You can freely pick SUV or Sportback and SQ8 or normal Q8. Here, then the SQ8, you can see, standardly comes with the bright mask around here in this light gray. That looks really beautiful, and I would actually pick it in this very combination. I think also the ultra blue together with the bright accentuation right here just looks amazing. Also the bright inside grille in here. However, you could also go for an SQ8 and make the mask and even the grille in black if you prefer that more sinister look. And I also think it's a right choice here to go for the Audi rings, which are in white here. Always black background, but white then on top. It just looks more present. And I've seen some other vehicles, for example, in my back mirror yesterday, or when they were facing towards me, and when the Audi rings themselves are dark, it almost appears as they would be like diminishing, so you can't really see them. And that way you can still see, hey, I'm driving an Audi. Styling-wise, S-Line and SQ8 are similar right here with these wider openings for the air curtains. Otherwise, they are just like this in the size. But then exclusively to the SQ8, you get wider tires, and then they also have to make the wheel arches wider, like here, this bit. But then again, they have some aerodynamic function right here, so the air can flow through. Now in the side profile, also 21-inch wheels, but different styling. And here we also have the Sportback version to show you. Falling roof line, really sensual, also with stronger hip area. Would you actually go for the standard SUV version, or would you rather pick the Sportback? Which one do you prefer styling-wise? Tell me in the comments. Then air suspension is here always set on the sportier node, but you also get it, as I said earlier, with the S-Line trim. And then you can depick it, but you cannot depict the sporty setup for the air suspension here in the SQ8. However, it is still an SQ8 and not an RSQ8, so they still have some compromise between sportiness and comfort. There's no RSQ8 for the electric version. You have to go then, once again, for the petrol engine still. But here I think this combination works very well. Usually I'm more a fan of the normal SUV versions,
But in this case here, yeah, I think the Sportback just has this sportier touch. But is it any bad? Is it a bad compromise? As for the interior, rear and trunk and so on, we'll find out later in the interior part. And in the rear, once again, a stronger presence for the Sportback version, especially in that 3/4 rear perspective right there. Cool look, isn't it? And then the SQ8 version has the silver contrast right here. I think that works very well with the stamped in e-tron badging here. The lower part, this diffuser, is the same in the S-Line and also in the SQ8. So also from the rear, is it more the SUV style or Sportback for you? Tell me in the comments. The wide Audi rings, I think once again, work just better. They have more presence here also at the rear. And although they have this two-dimensional look, they are three-dimensional in a way and to be touched at the rear. What about this badging? They have indeed also changed the badging. On the right side, there's now never anything. 50, 55 model, you can't see anything right there. But on the left side, a normal Q8 e-tron, standard one, would have this badge, just Q8. If you pick the S-Line for the Q8, it would be like this, the red Audi Sport logo with the Q8. And then if you have the SQ8, it looks exactly like this. So this here basically indicates an S model or also an S-Line. And it's not placed, you know, this old S-Line badge at the side, that one is also gone. Key fob here with the e-tron badge. It's a really nice key fob. It's not new, but still does the job very well. Then door closing sound. Really solid. Love that perfect door closing sound. And the interior materials here, soft touch on the top part, a nice microfiber insert here in the S-Line. This is also softer for your elbow, but could be a little bit softer, I think. And the lower part, this was better recently in the Tesla Model X, where this was also covered. Here it's just, you know, like a hard pack material. And then here, look at that. These are the digital mirrors. They are an option, and they cannot be bought in the US. And that's actually a good thing, because I think they're a bad idea. Yeah, everyone. They're placed too low in the vehicle. They should be higher and more central towards the driver. And in general, normal mirrors give you a 3D image of your surrounding, basically, to me, in your head. Even though if European mirrors are also better than the US ones that are kind of like zoomed in the driver's mirrors, it's also a little bit weird. But these camera mirrors are always, let's say, less realistic, even in nighttime. I think it's overall a bad idea indeed. What's your take on that? Seating position, the seat ergonomics actually is pretty good. Here, 1.89 m or 6'2", still leaves a lot of headroom. A panoramic roof is also available. Steering here, in this case with perforations at the side. S-Line, also red contrast stitches on the inside. And this volume jog here, for example, real buttons at the steering wheel. I love that. There's no other material than animal skin available. And the same also counts for the seats in the US. And that's, of course, really hit and miss. In Europe, we also get microfiber on the inside and leather on the outside for S-Line and the SQ8 and the base fabric seat. But in general, Audi needs to step up the game. Tesla Model X is completely animal-free. BMW iX offers a lot of different choices. And also Mercedes is better in this respect as for, you know, offering also some things worldwide, for example, for the EQE SUV. So this is where Audi is lagging behind. They have missed the chance to change something here in the interior. The interior setup here is really clean indeed. You have this integrated screen, 10.1 inch, the other one 8.6 inch below, and they can also play together in a way. e-tron badging right there, this very interesting structure on top of that. And then you have digital instruments as well, Audi virtual cockpit, and also how everything, you know, is processed. The build quality is really very nice. It has been more or less the same setup from the beginning, and we also know it like from Audi A6 and the Audi A7, A8 and so on. Digital instruments, clear to read, I really love them, and the map can be here full screen. However, the thing is, it's only the map from the car internal GPS, and you cannot get Apple Maps or Google Maps in there or something. And the head-up display is always a great little helper. Special to the Q8 e-tron interior is here the shifting reverse and drive. It works, but you have to question yourself, why? Why not make it classic? And this flying middle console here, meanwhile here this part in between is a little bit narrow for big modern smartphones, at least when you use this cable connection here. Underneath you have cup holders that can also be pushed inward, and you have more space to
12-volt power supply. To me, too much clutter actually. And on the left part here, this is then the inductive charging pad, like on this side. Well, here this armrest is very well attached. You cannot move it left or right. And then another place for your smartphone could be down there then. I really like the infotainment system because it has this simple main menu. The other one I don't fancy that much. And the car internal GPS has a nice satellite view. Here today also on a very beautiful volcanic origin island. Here when we zoom out, it's the island of Lanzarote in the Canaries. It's a really, really beautiful one here. That's Lanzarote, and these are the other Canary Islands, and they are actually, you can see here, on the coast of Morocco, almost, towards the equator. So it's really nice and pleasant here always for weather and good for filming. And the lower screen is my favorite capacitive AC unit. I always prefer real buttons, but for a screen solution, it's relatively easy to handle, like with clicking or sliding, and it's large, so you can't miss the things. And for example, when you want to adjust here, like left and right, you do like the swiping, closing gesture, and then you have everything synchronized. Seat heating is, for example, here in the lower part. So this, to me, for a screen solution, a good one. This is the drive selector that you can change the driving modes. That is not placed that well. It should be different, or maybe at the steering wheel or something. And once again, what I mean with the digital mirrors, usually you look here for the side mirrors, the normal ones. But here now you look down and it's always distracting. You lose attention from the road. So if you use screens for this solution, they rather should be put up right here. You know what I mean? Very nice comfort indeed. Enough headroom with 189 or 6'2", and also enough legroom. Good package and also decent comfort while seating. And you fold down this, and then you have, for example, cup holders. They are also adaptive, like this. And then in the lower part here, it's a very nice climate unit. And listen to that, with nice clicking sounds. Although this is also like this capacitive area. And the trunk or boot. Wait a minute. When we later talk about the frunk, we say frunk or fruit. Sorry, I had to go for this one. But here for the trunk or the boot, here the normal length is like 1.7 meters or 42 inches. And the width here is, well, between the wheel arches here even, that's even quite good. Once again, 1.7 meters or 42 inches, so good measurements. And also here in height, this is like 71 centimeters or 28 inches. Capacity is 530 liters for the Sportback, 570 liters, a little bit more here for the SUV. Cool thing is that here, when you lift this one up, you have even more space, once again, for charging cables or replacement tire. And you can also easily fold the seats from here for the maximum length, which is then here at over 1.80 meters or 72 inches. German electric vehicles tend not to have a frunk, but this one does offer one. For example, in here, space for the charging cables. Why not? That's actually decent. And I wonder why other competitors like the BMW iX or the Mercedes EQE SUV don't have one. I don't know. Then does this one here, since we are in front of the hood here, affect the petrol engines in any way? This one here, the Audi Q8 e-tron, is the EV version. Once again, an SUV or Sportback, then different powertrain outputs and so on. But it does not affect the petrol range. The normal Q8, SQ8, RSQ8, this will remain the same. They do have something in common, technology parts and so on, but it will run parallel the EV lineup and the combustion engine lineup. Sportback interior now in the rear. What is the difference? Headroom wise, I had like in the normal SUV version, like this space above my head still. And here, I do fit in here, but then I can just put a hand over my head. So yes, you lose headroom here in the Sportback version in the rear. However, tall adults can still sit here without problem. So it's not a big compromise, only if you have Michael Jordan guests in here in the rear. By the way, about the front, Sportback SUV, no difference in the interior, and also SQ8 with the normal Q8, also basically no difference in the interior. What about the trunk of the Sportback version?
Opens really high as well. I can stand underneath it, no problem. And you have the same great access to the trunk. Here, this one is fixed. You can remove it here, however, completely if you like. And you see, it's very well usable too. The thing is, you're not limited in height right here, just limited a little bit in height right here. So only if you have long things, but at the same time are super high in the back area, then it would be a problem. Otherwise, I think you can live with this compromise, can't you? Welcome everyone. Let's accelerate. Plop. That was 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour with the 55 model. So the official figure is 5.6 seconds. We got to check the time code below. Reasonably quick. 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear. And wow, we have a beautiful scenery on the island of Lanzarote. Wow, this is really impressive. And let's start with the strength of this model. And one of them is definitely noise insulation. It's really silent as for the wind noises around. And one of the weaknesses is, especially at lower speeds, you tend to get some low frequency sounds, especially when you're running over some bumps and so on. And they haven't changed that with the facelift here of the model. So that is on the con side. And the thing is that you especially hear them because it's otherwise so silent. You know, you won't hear them when you listen to music or something, or when you drive faster. But when you drive at slower speeds, then they come quite apparent. One of my favorite strengths of this vehicle is the steering. So here, left and right, it's super precise. And they have also updated it in this very facelift or update, because they have made the front axle, let's say, in a more reacting, stiffer way, and also changed the steering ratio. So you have to steer less, and Audi steerings in general are already quite progressive. But here then they are even more progressive. So small commands are direct to transport to the road. At the same time, also when you're driving straight, it is a very relaxing thing, definitely. So you can both drive comfortably in parking in and out, and also in a very sporty way. I like when there's no dead zone area here, and the car is really reacting very precisely. They have also updated the air suspension, and this vehicle we're driving at the moment basically has the suspension setup from the air suspension of the SQ8. That means you can either get this base air suspension or pick the sporty version of the air suspension. And in that case, especially the front axle gets a stiffer setup once again. And we feel that when turning in, that feels even sportier than before. However, I have to say, when you now think about, would I need to change my Audi e-tron to the Q8 e-tron because of the suspension and driving dynamics? No, you'll be just fine. The main reason to switch to the new model is indeed the increased battery size. So as for the driving dynamics, it was great before. Now it is also awesome. So great driving dynamics always with this vehicle, no doubt. So here now, also in some bends, you have a lot of fun. Actually, it's really, really a lot of fun to drive. Suspension is also indeed doing a great job. If you should go for the sporty setup of the suspension, I'm not exactly sure. So if you want sportier driving fun, yes, you can already have that with a normal suspension setup here. This one, when you want it even stiffer, but I wouldn't say it's really necessary. I'm always a fan of combining comfort and sportiness. It's still doing that. But of course, with the normal suspension setup, you would have a little bit more comfort still. Here we are also with 21-inch wheels, and they also serve the purpose of being visually interesting, yes. But then again, when you have some bumps in the road, you feel them more in your lower back and something. Well, we have great scenery here for our driving part today, no doubt about that. So also when you think about efficiency and comfort, 19-inch, the smallest wheels would be way to go. With 19-inch wheels, it has the best A rating for the rolling resistance and also gives you the best comfort. So it's always a trade-off, definitely. You have to think about that. In general, about the competitors, it's a lot of fun here going over these humps and so on. Great volcanic landscape. When we think about the Tesla Model X, Here we feel that the suspension is a little bit better in the Audi Q8 e-tron than in the Tesla Model X. And also in the X we had 22-inch wheels, and these also reduce the comfort while driving. So Tesla Model X with 20-inch wheels would also be better. Also the steering input here is so precise and so much fun to steer it around. This one here is really, really good in the Audi. And also if you think about the BMW iX or the Mercedes EQE SUV or EQS SUV, the Audi offers the best natural steering input. So I feel that it's most fun to steer the Audi. So this combination of steering and suspension is just awesome here. Probably one of the best things about this vehicle. Let's talk about the driving modes. Here, when I'm in dynamic mode, then the suspension is a little bit stiffer. In comfort mode, then it reacts a little bit softer actually to what's happening. So that's the way you can always fine-tune it a little bit more. I tend to keep it in the comfort mode, and you can also pick individual modes. For example, you can go to, this is when CarPlay is running, it's not switching there visually. So for example, you can go to the individual mode and there have like suspension on comfort, but then the steering on dynamic, that you have more resistance in the steering, but that you have the softer suspension. That would be, for example, my recommendation when you drive this car for a longer period of time or something. Other than that, the shifting mode, as we usually call them at Audi, D or S, usually defines how much are the RPMs turned up before the next shifting. Here, of course, it doesn't really have an effect on that, but the thing is that the throttle input is just changing. Here, like for example in D, slight throttle input. In S, there is like really instant throttle input, and that is indeed just more spontaneous to drive that one. When you have something in the front of you, then it's also about recuperation, and you can either do it with the brake pedal, then it's recuperating, or use the shifting pedal here and go for a stronger recuperation mode. In general, their philosophy is not really about one pedal driving, it's more about letting it roll. And when you lift your foot off the throttle and have this strong recuperation, then more is happening. And here you can also delete it again, so to speak. But the normal driving mode is hardly any recuperation. It's more this rolling or coasting effect. And when you, for example, have this cruise control set, then it's automatically doing that and so on. But they rather want you to have more like a combustion engine car feeling, that you use the brake pedal yourself. And it's always a matter of philosophy. I tend not to say that one of these is good or bad. It's just a question of how you prefer it actually. And if you like it, you can also then activate it here and have a stronger recuperation right there. So yeah, actually, why not? So in driving, I think it's doing a phenomenal job indeed. It's, you really feel connected to the vehicle, low center of gravity. That's the thing, that you don't feel the weight of this car. These EV SUVs are super heavy indeed, especially when you make the batteries even a little bit larger. At the same time, due to the low center of gravity, you don't feel the negative effect of that much actually. So now once again here on that road, let me show you another acceleration when I'm now doing like 45 to 90. Let's go. Let's go now. Plop. There we are. So that is also going really quickly. Is so effortless indeed. And the whole steering feeling, it's always a lot of fun, but you can always just go back to normal D-driving mode, pick the comfort setting or just the auto setting here, then the car is adjusting accordingly. The air suspension also, when you are in the dynamic mode, the air suspension lowers a little bit. So it's also then better for fast driving. You get more stability and at the same time more dynamic character, or it goes up again when you are in the auto mode or in the comfort mode and so on. Then about the efficiency, that's still the thing. So our results so far already is saying that even though some things have improved, it will not be the most efficient car overall. What will it be at the end of the day? We will find out when we drive even further. But now let's compare, how does the SQ8 drive in
comparison to this one here. Now the SQ8. Woo! And 100. Whoa! Whew! Okay. That's a notable difference. Whew, yeah, so 2 electric motors now in the back, and although on paper it's just this, like 1.5 seconds difference that you save approximately, even less, the difference was 5.6 versus 4.5 then here now. So, yeah, barely a second difference, but it feels way quicker indeed. So, get an instant push definitely from the get-go. So this additional electric motor really helps a lot. Interesting is that suspension-wise, from the setup, when you get the normal Q8 e-tron with the sportier air suspension in the S-line, and then also stick with it, it has the same suspension setup here than standard with the SQ8. So that's also then this stiffer setup here, and we have more precise steering, because especially the front axle has been stiffened up. But there's still a driving difference, and that is resulting from A, wider tires here in the SQ8, and B, here in the SQ8 we also have the dual motor setup here in the rear, so a triple motor setup in general, and that enables a better torque vectoring. So here we have an active torque vectoring, and this active torque vectoring can actually turn one wheel. For example, here when I'm going now in a left corner and I'm accelerating, then the right wheel on the outside here, the back wheel on the outside, can get more power and kind of push the car into the corner. But the other models, when you have just 2 electric motors, so one in front, one in the rear, this is done by brake intervention, and has been the same recently shown with the Tesla Model X Plaid model, that also then gets the additional motor in the rear, and then you also have active torque vectoring. So that's the main difference. So the SQ8 will still feel sportier, and once again, the best thing about these vehicles is the steering is just so direct. It's awesome, so you don't have any dead zone area. It feels crisp. You can keep your hands at the steering wheel at all times. It's hardly a situation where you have to grab over because you have to steer more. You always are in control. One more time, from 70 to 100. Plop. That was already exceeding that. Wow. So it's really very quick. Of course, once again, no comparison to the Tesla Model X Plaid. That is just beyond limits, but very quick acceleration here too, and it is definitely more than enough. Then driving modes. We can also go back to the auto or the comfort mode. Then the air suspension is going up a little bit again with more dampening comfort. It's softer. This tarmac here is very rough. That's why you maybe also hear that's a little bit louder then, but that's not from the vehicle. That's really from the tarmac then here in this case. You can also use it for normal cruising and so on. All the assistance systems work very, very well. This is here the adaptive cruise control, and the good thing is you can activate or deactivate the active lane keeping assist just with a click of a button, and that's rarely what we see in the very, very new modern user interfaces. So I feel it's actually a good thing that this one is not the all-new platform as for the user interface. Here, just like this, then adaptive cruise assist, no lane guidance, or click again and then I have lane guidance. And for example, when I here steer a little bit left, car keeps in, and very smooth process actually. So really fun of these assistance systems. But just once again with the digital mirrors, I'm just not a fan of it at all. Too small, placed too low down. Again, US viewers won't care about that at all because you get the normal mirrors anyway. And for everyone else, I can just tell you, don't buy this option. Stick with the normal mirrors. They don't bring you much more range or efficiency gains. That's a marketing myth. It's not a big difference. When you have good light conditions, it's of course better. As darker as it gets, the more problematic it is, I think. And you don't have this like realistic image of your surrounding with that. So you're not just aware. And for example, when you're looking straight now, and let's imagine there would a car appear near, like close to me, and even if I would look straight, and there is a normal big side mirror, I'm still aware. It's like I'm looking straight, but I'm still somewhat. Oh, there's something moving in that big mirror. Okay, there's a car. But here, with the screens, you have no awareness at all of what's happening unless you directly look into it. So when I'm looking straight and something is happening here, I realize nothing what is happening here, like not at all. Once again, I have to intentionally look and concentrate on the screen. That can't be a good thing. So new tech, yes please, if it helps us, but no thanks if it doesn't help us, if it just makes things more complicated. And that's one of the case right here. But the best thing is that this vehicle here is all about the drive indeed, and from the driving fun, from the driving behavior, steering input, suspension feel, the combination of comfort and sportiness, the Audi Q8 e-tron, and especially even more the SQ8 e-tron, they are really top of the segment as for this driving fun and driving behavior. That is really so well done indeed. But it also has some other shortcomings, as we told you earlier in the interior review, for example, that the other manufacturers, like Tesla goes all animal free on the interior. That's way more looking forward, for example. The other manufacturers have better offerings there. Well, and range efficiency gain and so on. This will be super exciting. We did one test with the normal Q8 e-tron yesterday, the 55 model, and we'll also do range test and here today with the SQ8 for a longer period of time, and then compare these both consumption figures, and then we can tailor the real world range, and if they can keep up to the competition. This is to come then later on. Putting it one more time here in dynamic mode, because I'm getting off the motorway here. Noise insulation, like wind noise and so on, is awesome. Really, really awesome. That's great. And wow, here now off the motorway in that bend, it handles so well. So much fun indeed. And I mean, look at that. It's so effortless. It's a heavy vehicle indeed, but the drive, suspension-wise and so on, makes it still so much fun. Of course, at one point, you can't deny physics. So even though the weight is put in the lower part of the vehicle, when you have really, really tight corners, at some point it does push you out of the corners. That's just physics. So electric vehicles are a lot of fun to drive, yes, and they especially feel effortless when accelerating. But when you have lightweight sports cars, then, or in general, like a combustion engine SUV, which is like maybe like 400, 500 kilograms lighter, they do feel better in tight corners indeed, because the weight, again, you just can't deny it. So it is a lot of fun, definitely, but more, especially like when you have some longer bends and so on, the tighter it gets, the more this weight still plays somewhat a role. Here, these roundabouts, they are a lot of fun. And then the other combination again here out. So would I actually choose the SQ8 over the normal Q8 e-tron? Of course, there's always a hefty extra price. I do feel that the SQ8 is a little bit more fun, yes. So this torque vectoring helps, and also the wider tires, they do make a difference. So it is actually more difference than I have expected. And in general, the thing is with the electric vehicles, when you pick between the different horsepower tunes, the difference is not as large as it used to be with combustion engine vehicles. Like when you compare like a normal Q8 to an SQ8 or so on. We have felt the same with the BMW iX and to the M60 version. Yes, it is more driving fun. It is more extreme in a way. It goes more into the sporty direction, but the differences are not as large as they used to be. So when you're thinking about a clever budget decision, then it is of course not the SQ8, and you will be totally fine with the normal Q8 e-tron, definitely.
if you want that extra spice of driving fun and the budget is not really, that important, then the SQ8 will be totally fine. And what I always love about the S models of Audi, in comparison to the RS models, here the S models have a suspension setup which is still suitable for everyday driving life. And in the RS models, usually there is some kind of a compromise in a way of you have to go in that very sporty direction. You also want that then from an RS model, but you do lose comfort. Here with the S models, it's still the case that they say, hey, I don't need to lose comfort, And at the same time, when you go for the normal Q8 e-tron, you can always depict that sportier suspension setup, for example, when you went for the S-Line, and have it a little bit more comfortable and also tune it with the tires. Here now, once again, like with the Q8 e-tron yesterday, we had 21-inch wheels. We could go bigger, but we could also go smaller. And my tip is always maybe go a size smaller to keep up the comfort. One more topic then here in driving is Sportback versus SUV. Yes, this happens to be the Sportback version here now, but yeah, it's a design thing, It maybe has like a minimum effect then on the weight distribution, because here then it's a little bit lower, but it doesn't make a huge difference. The bigger difference will in a way be that when you go for the Sportback version, the drag coefficient is better actually, so you will have a little bit more efficiency then. Yeah, but also not in a way that it's a super game changer or something. So if you go for SUV or Sportback in driving, it doesn't really make a big difference. So rather pick that one that you like better design or styling wise, and just think about if you can live with some of the like height gains in the trunk we've shown to you here with that Sportback version. But yeah, once again, that doesn't really matter so much. Great fun ride here once again. Now the question is, what about the final consumption for both vehicles and the real world range? And about the lighting, here's some nighttime driving shots. I know you love to see that. Look at that, they are oncoming vehicles, and it's said that they are not blinded. So far, no one complained, because sometimes people complain, they maybe flash their lights or something. But you can see, although they were oncoming vehicles, now again, from left to right, this span from left to right or right to left is a very wide field where the light is being applied. If I turn on the high beam, whoa, we can see everything. So that's really impressive indeed. But even the normal beam, look at that, really impressive field of light, I would call it. And yeah, as I said, so far no one complained. I hope it's also the case that really no one is blinded. And now to our final consumption and real-world range test for today. So we have driven the 106 kWh battery, the big one, with the Q8 e-tron 55 and also with the SQ8 Sportback e-tron. The first consumption with the normal Q8 e-tron was about 24 kWh on 100 kilometers. Here with the SQ8 e-tron a little bit higher, 25 kWh on 100 kilometers. That means both round about 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour for our US guys. So the real world range then is 440 kilometers for the Q8 e-tron or 420 kilometers for the SQ8 e-tron. That means 270 miles for the Q8 e-tron or around 260 miles for the SQ8 e-tron. Overall, an acceptable result. The consumption is still quite high, also if you compare it to the competition. However, now, since the battery is so large, it evens that one out. So no, it is not the most efficient one in the segment, but it is the one that also offers one of the best driving experiences in the segment as for comfort and fun, and this combination indeed. So you have to think about which one would be more important to you. There are a lot of new emerging car brands on the market, but for this one here, VW executives have driven it and decided to invest $700 million in this very company, taking over 5% of its shares, because the XPeng G9, a large electric SUV, together with its sedan brother, the P7, have a platform which is obviously very interesting to Volkswagen. Why is that? And is this large EV SUV really that good? We're going to find out here with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here With the front of the XPeng G9, you can see the daytime running light all the way across, really cool. A very simplistic design already in the front. It reminds a little bit also of the design that NIO, for example, is using, and I will also go into some details where NIO and XPeng are different and what they maybe share or what's maybe like somewhat similar. 4.89 meters or 193 inches is the length of the XPeng G9. This is more or less a length than towards the Tesla Model X. However, the pricing in Europe is between the Tesla Model Y and the Tesla Model X. So they try to offer a full package for a decent price, cheaper than the competitors. Wheels, either 19-inch or these here, the 21-inch, because this is the high trim vehicle. Really beautiful, look at that here, this knurling around the wheel inside here, this inner part, so beautiful job indeed. The CD value is 0.27 and they make two different versions. Rear-wheel drive with an acceleration figure of more than 6 seconds, or an all-wheel drive version where the acceleration figure to 1 kilometer or 62 miles an hour is under 4 seconds. That's of course pretty impressive already. Then rear design, look at that, light strip also all the way through, and then this dot design right here. I think design-wise it's really attractive and clean and simplistic, yet they play a lot with light technology, and they also have some nice animations, for example, for a welcoming and goodbye light, both in the front and also in the rear. Turning indicators, slim integration here replaces the outer part, and also with this cascading function. In the rear, the turning indicators have this cascading form as well, and most of the stuff you see here today is indeed included with basically all the versions. There's just a 14,000 euros difference between the low spec and the high spec model, and that is hugely different strategically between, this one here, the XPeng, or for example also a Zeekr, and Audi, BMW, Mercedes and VW, for example, where you always have like a base model and then the top spec is like double price or even more. Here we have the Netherlands pricing already, 58,000 euros for the small battery with rear-wheel drive, and then 14,000 euros more, 72,000 euros for the all-wheel drive version with the bigger battery. 76 kilowatt hours is the entry battery, the bigger one at 93 kilowatt hours. This is the key fob, and can you read this? I give you a couple of seconds time and then tell me if you could read that. Well, I couldn't, I had to ask for it, and it says X Opera, that's their sound experience system. The key fob itself is masterclass. It's so great, it really feels really premium. And you also have a separate button here for the charging flap. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. Here, have you seen that? It's a very clever integration here of that charging port and 300 kilowatt DC charging peak. And that comes from an 800 volt architecture. It means 10 to 80% state of charge in around 20 minutes. And that's of course really impressive. So let's see. I think it's a very good idea here, but you see, like everything you touch and feel and hardware-wise is working, there we go, is working very well, but software-wise and functions like these, I think they need a little more tweaking, and we're getting to a scheme there, definitely. Well, in 4K, you have maybe seen on your big screen here, this blue dot here. Have you ever wondered why it's sometimes on test vehicles? They do that this dot here is basically on the lowest point, then they mark it that the car is supposed to stand that way. For example, also that the logos are upright and so on. So this is basically like a show marking when they put vehicles at a very certain point on the show parking lot and something, just wanted to tell you that. Some things I really prepare extensively before doing the review, of course, to give you the best information. Other things I try to be surprised myself that you can have the authentic experience while I'm doing that. For example, for opening a possible trunk. Yes, there is one, and oh, you see, this was not prepared, otherwise I would have removed it, and that's actually quite large, so it can easily house charging cables or even more. Let's open the doors here. When you open it here, then they fold out like this, otherwise flush. We know this mechanism from other brands already. It feels actually good, so it's a good build quality. I wouldn't say it's my favorite mechanism, but it's fine, Then here, door closing sound.
is good, although it's frameless doors. Interesting. And then here, this is also an inbuilt soft close. And this is also a scheme all the way throughout this vehicle at that price point with so many things that were like only in options, 50,000 euros with the Germans. That's the thing. Here then, it's a nice covering here of the inside of the doors. DIN audio sound system. This is part of a premium package, one of the very few options. And then also door pocket, big enough. Even in the lower part here with soft touch, not only hard black plastic. We sometimes don't see that in 100k cars. Then interior, the steering wheel with a very open spoke design, I would call it that way. And real buttons at the steering wheel. That is amazing indeed. And the cool thing is here, this is a shortcut directly to the air volume, like the vent strength. And by that here, you control the temperature while driving up and down. And that's why I also don't need it in the middle part. That's a great idea. On the right side, you control the volume, for example. This very vehicle here is equipped, as I said, with this premium package. Another thing that does include it is animal skin seats. The base model, however, would feature leatherette seats then. So they do offer that. However, I think it's not really consistent because they also claim that sustainability is a core thing of their brand. I will talk to the CEO very soon about this choice, of course. Then, with 1.89 meters and 6'2", a lot of headroom left. This is here a fixed panoramic roof. There is no additional shade available. However, it is already quite dark. And I think it's a good decision because otherwise, when it's quite light and there's no additional shade, there's so much heat coming into the car. And for that one here so far, it was quite good. The ergonomics of the seat are also actually pretty decent. So I'm really satisfied with that. Long journeys, no problem at all. One small software flaw I discovered is that even when you set your user account here, often doesn't realize that the steering wheel starts always in the higher position and then you have to set it yourself once again. You do that here in the menu, have to press here and then I can, you know from Tesla as well, scroll down here and scroll them up, then it goes towards you and down and so on, but it doesn't really save that. And this is a scheme once again throughout the vehicle that it has good mechanisms, good system, and the build quality on the interior is really amazing. That is better than with most other brands I've ever seen indeed. Wow, this is really wow. Just they need to tweak some of the software things, and yeah, they told me in China everything would be working very well, but they need to adapt that software also to the European market because they have to rewrite everything. And that is maybe also one of the things I'm awaiting that they still fix. Interior cockpit overview, super clean, minimalistic in a way, but then again also screen overload on the other hand. 10.25-inch instruments and 2 times 15-inch screens. Wow, that's of course like in your face with the screens, and definitely of course inspired by Tesla, maybe copied. What would you say? And also like NIO did basically, also with the menu structure. Or did Tesla just set an industry standard there? What do you think? Digital instruments, quite large and give you the most important information. When you hit the drive mode and change to this, you just have the speed pretty small there in the top part. And once again, as I told you earlier here, when you use your thumb on the left side of the steering wheel, you can control the temperature and also then here the vent strength. So that's a good and easy solution. Remember these here? Old Mercedes stall column, and these are also the same ones that Tesla then used from the Mercedes parts bin. Now XPeng are using them. More speakers from the DIN audio system. Infotainment system, pretty responsive also from the car internal map. They will also offer Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's a difference to NIO and Tesla who don't do this. Interesting. Then the left side menu structure here. This is where I go to the driving modes and so on. We'll test it on the German Autobahn very soon. Yes, of course, that is Tesla inspired. That is quite obvious, I think. The X-Pilot, they drive level 4 autonomously already in China. In Europe, that's not possible yet, and they also had to rewrite the whole software. You can, by the way, have for the display, like a day or night view. I always use the night view, that it's better here for the camera to use. Temperature is changed right here, for example. And here AC on and off. You can also use the voice control. Hey, XPeng, temperature 20 degrees. That works
for example. And then you have another app overview. And here, for example, we can also go to the energy meter. We can change a charging limit and then also take a look at the most recent fuel economy. I'll give you an update on the German Autobahn at different speeds than in the driving part. By the way, sometimes when I say good things about Chinese vehicles, I receive criticism saying like, hey, you are advertising Chinese vehicles. When I sometimes say good things about German vehicles, people say, hey, you advertise German vehicles. The thing is, I show the pros and the cons of every car on the market, and then you can decide. What I actually do is, when I also know the history, the background of the vehicle and the reliability and so on, then I can give a final recommendation with my whole driving impression plus the possible cost of ownership, reliability for the owner. That's why I often, take really hours and hours per day to answer comments or private messages on all different kinds of social networks. But just because I say something is good or bad with the car does never mean that I just on a tendency say like buy a car from a certain region, country or plant or something. Truth is that almost all vehicles nowadays are basically global vehicles because they consist of parts from all around the world, and sometimes manufacturers from that country also manufacture in the other countries. Yeah, it's really hard to draw a line somewhere, What I can understand when people say, I try to find a vehicle to support my local business or my local country or something when the car is also built in there. But to know that, you really have to check each individual model, where it is built and what parts are in there. That's a really tough thing to do. This middle console here is also very clean and well thought out, except for one thing. These are inductive charging pads. It's cool that we have two. However, that if smartphones get so hot here, especially at least the iPhone here, it needs cooling nowadays. Every car needs that when it has an inductive charging pad, so it definitely overheats here. Then these cup holders, it's good that you can pull them up to clean them, and you can pull them down here. Also good feedback, adaptive. Then you push them in again, and then they come up, for example, for cleaning and against fingerprints. They might just be too small for large bottles and so on. This middle armrest here is also cool because it opens both ways. Tell me from which car is it reminding you of? Then tell me in the comments. And on the inside there is also decent space, also for the ladies, for handbags. This is, by the way, a high-grade leatherette, so you see it also works that way. Yeah, but it's also very good usage of space. Oh, even with cooling on the inside. A large lower storage area here, USB-A and USB-C charging, and another 12-volt power supply. Yeah, sometimes I also take my glasses off that I don't have like any reflections from an external light inside the glasses. What I want to tell you is that the lettering of XPeng on the outside and so on, and the name, like the pronunciation XPeng, is just used internationally. Inside China they say Xiaopeng and they just use the logo. And Leah is showing us her favorite feature, and that is the passenger mirror. It has this, very elaborated style, and then automatically there is a mode in the passenger infotainment system where you can adapt and change the lighting there, especially for makeup features. And look at that, you can even set an individual seat mode for the makeup position. And the passenger seat here also has a special relaxing function here with this calf rest. Goes quite high actually then for this maybe sleeping while charging. By the way, you can see from my driving position, I cannot see the passenger display. I have to go around like this, and then I can see it, because only the passenger is supposed to see it, and it's basically mirroring what you also see on the left. And you can set your own temperature, the seat heating and so on, or then the special like makeup function or a yoga mode even. Rear doors. Even these have a good door closing sound, although they are frameless. And on the inside, all the way soft materials, even at the bottom of the rear doors. And as I said, we hardly see that in nowadays premium cars. Wow. Here you can also control the back part of the rear seats at the inside of the doors. And this little button here, this fella, is a mute button. Every single seat, also in the rear, has a mute button for the infotainment system. And if you wonder now, Will the kids play around with that? Yes, they definitely will mess with that. Then let's get in the rear, and you can see still some legroom left. Good packaging indeed. And there's here enough headroom left, no problem at all. It's also very comfortable in the rear. As I said, I can also control the back part right here. Easily done actually. There is no middle tunnel, really using a dedicated EV platform, so you can easily house 5 tall adults in here. This is also this gentleman's function here, that the driver can control the co-driver seat easily like this. And we can pull down this control unit here. And then there are some cup holders in the front. And here, is this dampened? No, this is not dampened. I mean, if that would be dampened now, then I would say like, okay, this is like the best build quality I've seen, you know. But yeah, at least something I can find they can improve here. But once again, it's astonishing how well this interior is built. Also check out this rear handle here with soft close or soft retraction. And there are also lights here, and everything you see and feel just feels amazing. Now checking out the trunk or the boot. This is here in the standard configuration, 660 liter up to 1580 liters. Let's check it out. Here first of all, top cover has no rails at the side, and then the normal length is about 1 meter or 40 inches. It's actually quite decent, and the width also easily 1 meter or 40 inches, even between the wheel arches. Here a little bit wider, and also additional from speaker from the DIN audio system. Then also take out the luggage, because underneath we have even more space, for example for the charging cable in a separate box. Then in this case on the right side you can press these 2 buttons, and then the seats fold like this. So it's actually a good mechanism. When you have the air suspension, which is connected to the highest trim model, then you can also lower the whole vehicle for loading in and out and so on. All right, when I come to Europe, I have to face the German Autobahn. Acceleration from 70. 140. 170 kilometers an hour. Wow, that was pretty quick. Official acceleration figure is 4 seconds. 0 to 1 kilometers an hour, or 60 miles an hour. 62 miles an hour. That all-wheel drive version we're driving, wow, that's pretty explosive. And we have different driving modes. This was here the sport mode for maximum performance actually. You can also see these red lines here. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool. And at the same time, you can also go back to the standard mode when you want to relax. Yeah, there is always some kind of sound feedback for that. This top trim version is also equipped with the air suspension and 21-inch wheels. So when you're driving over some small bumps, then you feel 21-inch wheels, of course, have less dampening than 19-inch wheels, than the base ones. However, the air suspension is also doing a good job, because it makes this ride a little bit softer, and you can have both, basically, comfort and sportiness, because when you go back here to the sports mode, then the ride gets a little bit stiffer. What is not changing that much is actually the steering wheel. Let's test it here. Sport mode versus standard mode. Doesn't make any difference, I feel. And that's the one thing about agility of this vehicle. You don't have this feedback from the steering. So it is really light and soft, and you kind of steer like you would steer through thin air or something. It's not super bad or something, but it just lacks feedback, so you don't feel so much connected to the car via the steering wheel. Noise insulation, driving here 130 kilometers an hour, it's like around 70-80 miles an hour, and it's really very silent, and the vehicle is very calm on the road. Let's do a lane change here in the normal mode. Yeah, it's also very relaxed, changing back, accelerating while doing that. Really relaxed indeed. As for braking, you can set different modes. You can have medium, low, high, or the X pedal. Too frequent operation, please try again later. Okay, so they're trying to prevent you to change stuff too often, obviously, while driving. So when you have low, then you lift your throttle off the pedal and there's hardly any recuperation. And the other extreme would be then the X pedal, and that one would be then kind of like a one pedal driving feeling. So you can decide what you want to go for. Let's go back into the sports mode. So how does it behave here when you lane change then? Yeah, it's a little bit stiffer from the suspension, definitely more feedback. So it feels really good. You feel you're driving a big and heavy SUV, yeah, considering also that size of the battery, yes, of course. But still, hardware-wise, I have to say, it's very well done. And if you then think about that, for example, the competition from NIO and Tesla, they have similar offerings, like also in the size and so on, but they're both way more expensive. Then you think about, does Tesla or NIO offer anything else what they don't offer here? Or then, of course, thinking about the big Germans, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, do they have something against this here? And then it gets really tricky, especially at that price point here. So that's the very interesting thing. Remember, this one here, length of Tesla Model X. But
congestion zone ahead.
Thank you, I didn't ask for that. But the price between the Y and the X. So, and that's always the thing, that they offer the products full spec and so on at a very decent price. Wow, the acceleration is really quick, especially in the sports mode here. So the rear drive version itself would surely be enough, I would feel.
Congestion zone ahead.
Okay, I don't need that, and also not so loud. Here now in this corner, yeah, don't feel so much connected to the steering, but the car feels actually quite agile, besides from that not connection from the steering. The turning indicator, by the way, is always going back to the neutral position, but without, you know, giving you a haptic feedback when the turning indicator sound is over. So do it like this, and then you have to press it back again, basically. Or sometimes, let's see if it does here, when I'm going right, then turning left, it should cancel the turning indicator process. Yeah, it does it, but it doesn't flip back or something, so you don't get a haptic feedback for that. It's very interesting when you use the turning indicator, you just hear it on the left side when you're turning left, and you just hear it on the right side when you use the right turning indicator. That's also a very interesting thing. When we are at speed, 120, let's go. Good performance, 160, 170, 180, almost 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Wow, now it gets really rough and also a little bit out of control in a way, you know, in comparison. There you feel that the 21-inch wheels are kind of big for that vehicle, definitely. Air suspension set on sports mode. Also, once again, a little bit stiff. Let's put it to standard once again, see if this... Yeah, it's tricky to change that in the screen while driving, definitely. Yeah, now we're a little bit softer, but overall, the setup of the vehicle is not too soft, I would say. At the same time, when you accelerate here a little bit, then you can make it, a little bit shaky. But overall, I'm really happy with the hardware they deliver here. After all, this large SUV is not meant primarily for that very sporty drive, but more for this, constant cruise and relaxed and so on. And I think the seat ergonomics is also very good. So they have good long-term comfort. I can always say that. And there's also this spacious, roomy atmosphere and so on. And I mean, we're driving really fast, 150 kilometers an hour now, and it's still very silent in here. I mean, some software things you already heard can be annoying at times. At least I feel that's quite pretty cool that I can change the temperature here on the left side of the steering wheel with the jog wheel here, and also the vent strength right and left. That's easily done, so I can control the climate unit easily while driving, although nothing is here, so I don't have to use that in the touchscreen. I'm really happy for that. So this is a very good solution they found in here directly at the steering wheel. Overall, I think the Autobahn test itself, that one is already mastered. The question now is, of course, about the assistant driving system.
X-Pilot ACC activated. Please drive carefully.
Okay. And now, let's see. Here I put the speed a little bit higher with my left thumb. Distance to a car in front of me is being kept. This so-called X-Pilot is activated. It's also here. Lane departure sensitivity, let's put it to normal. Speed limit assist. Feel the distance maybe a little bit too far. Yeah, I can adjust the distance. Let's put it a little bit closer here. It's also easy solution to control the distance here. So always when the ACC is activated, then the distance can be ruled here at the steering wheel. Lane keeping
congestion zone ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a little bit annoying, I have to say. Hands on the steering wheel, saying. So in here, like the lane keeping assist is also, yeah, you see. So the assistance systems are not really on a standard yet where I would say like, hey, this is like super great and I would trust in that. And the reason for that is in China, they're already driving level 4 autonomous with this vehicle here. And they say that's working perfectly. But then they come to Europe and they have to reprogram all the cars. They basically have to
Congestion zone ahead.
throw the software to the trash because of data security issues here in Europe. They can't just copy-paste all the stuff and then they have to rework the stuff, and it can be that things are not working. So software-wise, and we've seen it with all Chinese manufacturers so far, they still have to tweak all the stuff for the European market. But performance and hardware is definitely already tweaked for the European market. Wow, that is working very well. So once again, impressed while driving. I think if they could tweak the steering input, the connection from steering to the driver, steering wheel, vehicle, road, that would be something that would need to be done. I think you can fix that. Also, software setup wise and so on. Yeah, and then of course still work a little bit more with the software right there. Now, very important, of course, what about the concise consumption? Let's go to we're on standard mode. Let's see, as for the economy, and let's put it once again to the cruise control, or at least let's put a steady speed. Here now at 130 kilometers. You see there that I tend to keep the turning indicator more often than I want to actually. Yeah, if you use just a tipping function, I think that's then a better thing, definitely. So, and I put it now here to the recent 2.5 kilometers, and we're driving now steady like 125, 130 kilometers an hour, and see what economy figure we can score there. Then we'll go to 100, because that's also like a very typical motorway speed, 1 kilometers an hour, like 60 miles an hour. Of course, when you drive really, really fast, like we did here, really floor it out. Now we had a pretty high energy consumption, was more than 25, like 26 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers. That's of course pretty high, but absolutely normal when we really floor it out. And let's see what can we score now with some realistic long-term and also non-German speeds here. So at 130 kilometers now, we're around 22 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers. That's close, a little bit less than 3 miles per kilowatt hour. And now I've been driving 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour for quite some time. And the average here is around 20 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer, so slightly less. And that's a little bit more than 3 miles per kilowatt hour. That would mean a concise range at very good temperatures here, 23 degrees outside, so 73, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Here around 460 kilometers or 290 miles. And we also tested the city consumption for you, so rather lower speeds and so on. This is then at 15 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer, so that's more like 4 miles per kilowatt hour. That would then mean a city driving range in good mild temperatures of more than 600 kilometers or 370 miles. So it really depends, but I think a good average is always when you drive 1 kilometers or 60 miles now, because it shows that it also can drive at significant speeds in a good way. So considering at that price, with that high spec and equipment, everything it delivers and so on, this is really impressive, and I can very well understand why VW is spending $700 million on this platform here. They will use this actually, first of all, for 2 Chinese models, similar to this one, the big SUV, and also for the big sedan. And VW and XPeng also want to collaborate even more and, exchange vice versa, some knowledge, and maybe even build cars together in the future, maybe even then for European or US market. So I think this collaboration will even grow further. Overall, everything we touch and see and feel from the hardware, how the car is driving, is really excellent. And if you compare it, for example, to NIO, who are getting more to this premium pricing region, this one here is clearly less expensive than a NIO, and it is a better vehicle.
Definitely. And if you compare it to a Tesla, for example, yes, Tesla meanwhile has way more elaborated software. That's a huge difference. And maybe the electric motors are a little bit more efficient and also their aerodynamics are a little bit better. But from driving, this one also drives better than the Tesla. I really have to say that as well. So I feel that this brand here has indeed huge potential, and that's also what the analysts of VW said, and that's why they made this investment here. Of course, the crucial thing is here adapting the software for the European market. Why is that so important? So the Chinese manufacturer, this one is driving level 4 autonomously in China already. But when they come to Europe, they have to throw away all of their software because it's not in accordance to data security rules here. They have to redevelop their own software then. Yeah, and that's of course a huge problem, and they just need time to fix this. So some things need to be fixed in assistance systems, how quick and responsive everything is working, and that everything is working flawlessly without errors and so on. This can be done. It is only software, however, it's also not easy. But I think that when they fix these small things here, which we also experienced today in our review, the platform itself and the base technology in the hardware is really excellent, and this can be a problem for the German manufacturers. VW saw that and says, hey, we just take a share of the cake.
So what are the pros and cons of all these vehicles, of all these large electric SUVs? The Kia EV9 actually delivers the most flexible interior concept, and on the exterior it looks so rugged. So actually it fulfills a lot of design purposes. Yes, of course, the CD value, the wind resistance, is not that good then. This is one consequence of this design. However, definitely on the interior with the 7-seater concept in general, a lot of space and also all animal-free interior. Everything looks like very good build quality, so you cannot say that this would not be a premium product. Definitely the Kia EV9 does also compete with premium brands. However, it is also not cheap at all. The Volvo EX90, the other 7-seater, however, is definitely still more expensive. And the Polestar 3 is a sibling that does not offer the 7-seater option. They are both somewhat similar. The Polestar 3 a little bit shorter, also a little bit lower in the price, but you still feel that they are both on the same platform. The Tesla Model X is of course also standing out in a way, because of the layout, because of the wing doors, because of the large panoramic roof and so on, and also because of this performance option, the Model X Plaid, as we've shown here to you. This is of course the very extreme one, but you don't have to go for the Plaid version. Also, the user interface is the most unique one since the recent facelift, with almost everything in that one screen and even without a stalk column and so on. The BMW iX, well, I don't like the exterior so much with this beaver front grille. However, the interior atmosphere is really cool. Soon the interior will also be all animal-free, at least you will be able to get also an animal-free steering wheel. They have a lot of interesting things there in this interior. Old BMWs are easier to control, yes, that's true. And it also has a great driving feeling, so the driving dynamics are really very good, as we also expect from BMW. The Mercedes EQE, well, some have to get used to the exterior design. And the interior, well, I think the user interface is also not that good, and also build quality wise it is definitely not the best Mercedes. However, it also has its strength. For example, it's a good CD value, so it's also very efficient, for example, at higher speeds. The Audi Q8 e-tron more delivers a normal SUV feeling. It feels least EV in this respect, and that's also the reason because it doesn't sit on a pure EV platform. So if you do not like that pure EV feeling, if you want that vehicle more to feel like a combustion engine SUV, then the Q8 e-tron is the pick for you. However, from all these vehicles here in the review, it also has the worst range. So for everything that goes long range and so on, the Q8 e-tron is basically out. The XPeng G9 has a surprising interior build quality. It also lacks animal-free interior at all, at least the base versions you can get some. And the price is very interesting, so it has the best price-performance ratio in the test. As for assistance systems and general software and so on, they still need time to adapt it to the European market to make it on the same level as they also produce it in China. But overall, as I said, price performance wise, a very interesting proposal. I feel that if you take everything together, like the build quality, the interior concept, then also taking a look at sustainability, driving dynamics, so taking the whole picture and also pricing into account, I think at this moment the Kia EV9 does deliver the best package. Minus points as for the efficiency, for example at high speeds because of the rather bad CD value if you compare it to some of the competitors, but especially if you want a lot of space and if you appreciate this rugged exterior, then the Kia EV9 would be for you and would also be one of my primary picks actually. The BMW iX, although I don't like it on the exterior, I really like driving it and I also love the interior in general. So if price would not matter, I would probably go for the BMW iX. The XPeng G9 will be even more interesting when they fixed all of the software small issues they at the moment have. I love the Audi Q8 e-tron, but considering the poor range and the poor efficiency, it is a great vehicle, but not a great EV. That's just fact. The Mercedes EQE SUV, it will still be a vital competitor to the BMW iX especially. I think that's also a little bit a matter of preference. Which one do you find better to control and better in the looks and so on? Volvo EX90 and Polestar 3 are also definitely interesting. However, I think they're a little bit too expensive for what they offer. Tesla Model X is really standing out, and especially as for supercharging network and efficiency and so on, Tesla is once again one of the top ones in the game. However, meanwhile, they have got a lot of competition in this very segment. So if you consider everything together, I think that the Kia EV9 will be less expensive, especially if you take equipment into account. So you won't need so much extras for the Kia EV9 if you compare how much extras you need for the BMW iX or the Mercedes EQE SUV. So then, at the end of the day, at this moment, I would lean towards the Kia EV9. What do you think? Which one would you go for and why? Tell me in the comments and see you at more comparison episodes.